Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone joining us for this conference. This is the third edition of the conference, the third Animal Behavior and Welfare Conference in Africa. Thank you all for being here. I am Dr. Sunday Agbonika. I'm the founder of the Developed Human Support Initiative and hosting this event. Please feel free to share with us in the chat where you're joining us from different parts of the world. We already, at the last check, we had 302 people signed up for the conference from 31 different countries. And it's so exciting for us to see that we have people joining us from different parts of the world. So please feel free to share in the chat where you're joining us from. A few things to note, please, for everyone who's here, especially for the participants, please do make sure that the name that's on your LinkedIn, your Zoom account that we can see currently is same with the name that we already have in the sign-up record. That would make it a lot easier for us while we are sorting through to be able to see how to ensure that we know who joined the meeting, and then we can now be able to process certificates. So please do ensure that your name that you have on your Zoom account matches up with your name that we have in our database from those that have signed up. So thank you all for being here once more. I am so happy to have you all join. So we have Nancy from Pennsylvania. We had Irina from Romania. We had Dr. Musa from Bangladesh. And so a number of people from Nigeria as well. And it's so good to all have you all here. I will be handing over to the keynote speaker in a bit, but also just to talk a little bit about what even led to us having this topic for the conference for today. So dog training or animal training in various parts of the world, and even in Africa, Nigeria, everywhere, has been something that has been growing. And having a good relationship with pets, and as the awareness and all of that for relationship with animals in various capacities is growing and everything, we equally want to see that we are able to give people, or people are able to get the
Looks like he is having an internet freeze. It's not just me, right?
Yeah, it would seem
No, it's
so.
not just you. I think he has problems with internet. Yeah, we have a little bit of issue nationwide with internet right now. Our most popular service providers are crashing. They're having some maintenance issues. Chris, are you there? All right, I think he's coming back in.
Yes, my internet. Anyway, so thank you all for being here. So we have this running because we felt it was necessary to give the right awareness to positive reinforcement training, or to training for animals generally. And positive reinforcement training is one of the most acceptable of fear-free training. Is one of the most acceptable training standards for animals worldwide. It's the same, if you do understand the concept of positive reinforcement training, it works literally across board. It's the same concept that you can use to train dogs, and you can use to train any other animals as well. Probably maybe the only thing that may be different, if so to speak, will probably be what you may be using as treats, or a better knowledge of the species that you're working with. So for me, my training journey, I'll probably just run through my training journey briefly. So in 2013, I sought to train dogs, and then it had been a passion all my life. I don't want to go to so much details of what led to all of that and everything because of time. But then I wanted to learn to train, and then I sought to go to the US to train in a facility in North Carolina. But then I was denied visa, so I couldn't go on the trip anymore. And then I now sought for the next best way to learn to train. And I learned by training so I got books, I got videos of the internet, and of all the books that I've personally been able to gather and learn from, this right here is the best book that I've personally benefited from. And it's a book titled Training the Best Dog. It's by two authors, Don Sylvia Stacy Mix and Larry Kay. And we have one of the authors of the book at the conference for today. I'm happy to introduce the person as well. We do have someone, please could you? Okay, so I will be handing over the reins at this point to the keynote speaker for the event for today, in person of Mr. Nimi Fine Country, to continue or to give us the keynote speech. And just to give a brief on his background, so he's someone who has worked with animals of various species. He has dogs, he has a turtle, he has aquarium fish, and a number of other animals that he's worked with, a parrot as well. And he's trained dogs, he's trained the parrots, he's trained a number of animals, all of that put together. He's one of those that's on the board of our organization, Dog Love Human Support Initiative, and he is equally our trainer right now. He's the lead trainer at Dog Love Human Support Initiative. So please make welcome for the keynote address, Mr. Nimi Fine Country.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Nimi Fine Country. I'm the lead trainer at Dog Love. I'd like to welcome us all and say it is a pleasure to be giving the keynote address at the third edition of the Animal Behavior and Welfare Conference in Africa, drawing participants from over 40 countries. So to my teammates, I want to say thank you and thanks for setting me up to take the keynote address. I would like to start with a quote from Kinky Friedman, and he says, "Money can buy you a fine dog, but only love can make him wag his tail." The theme for this year's conference is nurturing bonds through positive reinforcement training. We have an impressive lineup of speakers, all of them seasoned professionals, which honestly I am eager to listen to and learn from. They'll probably be taking us through the details, processes, and importance of creating bonds with your animals. And this is something that I'm really looking forward to. But I, on my own part, I'll be talking from my little experience as an animal trainer here in Nigeria. So this year's topic is in line with our mission at Dog Love Human Support Initiative, where we try to create responsible pet ownership by fostering better interactions and bonds between owners and their pets. And this ultimately leads to better animal welfare all around. Let me define positive reinforcement from how I understand it. Positive reinforcement training in animals is a practice in which a desired behavior is encouraged by giving certain rewards. And these rewards could be in the form of treats, praises, or even the animal's toys. Doing this actually increases the chances that that behavior will be repeated by the animal, especially when you ask the animal to do it. In the past couple decades, positive reinforcement has taken over the world of animal training, as its uses and applications are almost limitless. From household pets to zoo animals, positive reinforcement is used in different ways to interact with animals. As humans, we use positive reinforcement in our daily lives, especially with children, by giving them praises and rewards when they do things correctly. And just in the same way you become fond of a teacher that will bring gifts and sweets to class, the same way that animal becomes fond of us when we use positive reinforcement training. And this causes us to form a bond with that animal. Training an animal opens up a channel for you to understand and communicate with that animal. But positive reinforcement in itself takes that just a little bit further to build trust, which fosters the bond because the animal has come to understand that you've got his back. And of course, you are the one with the treats. From a human perspective, bonding with an animal has been proven to help with anxiety, depression. It has been known to also decrease blood pressure and improve our health all around. Our work here in Abuja is a testament to that. We have worked with children living with disabilities using some of our dogs, and we have found that it has had some quite positive and rewarding results. As a pet lover and animal trainer, positive reinforcement training was the game changer for me as I began to get better results from training happier animals. I have experienced no better application than in working with animals that have fear and anxiety issues. Going through that very slow and rewarding process of getting the animal to build its confidence and trust again, I have come to understand that the positivity that gets you your desired result and leads to bonding isn't just about the treats alone, but also about the human in the relationship. So, from my point of view, positive reinforcement training requires the right attitude, a positive mindset, with loads of kindness, patience, and love. This I have seen is what triggers the trust that leads to the bonding process between the animal and its owner. This is why during training, a lot of focus is put on the owner. When the dogs are brought in first, we try to condition the owner into understanding that a huge part of the training lies with them. Sometimes these bonds become so strong, the bond between the animal and the owner becomes so strong that it is almost psychic, especially when tragic events occur. I'll share a couple scenarios that I have experienced myself. So I used to know a man who had three daughters and a dog, and he would always refer to his dog as his fourth daughter. So the dog was about 12 years old when the man passed away from cancer. On the night he passed away, inexplicably, for some reason, the dog kept howling all night as if she knew her father was gone. And that experience I had was a personal experience of my own. One morning I was on my way to work, and I just had this urge to turn the car around and head back home, which I did. On getting home, I discovered that one of my dogs, Troy, had been run over by a car, but he managed to still find his way home. So on getting there, Troy heard my voice and he tried to get up, and that was when he passed away. So what I'm saying is that these bonds between human and animals can be quite strong and almost inexplicable. It is worthy of note that over time, the interaction between owners and their pets has improved as more people are becoming closer and more bonded with the animals. With conferences like this, we hope more people will get to understand and key into the idea of seeing their pets more as companions and not as mere animals at home. I would like to congratulate the founder of Dogalove, Dr. Sunday, and the rest of the team for putting this together for the third year running. And I wish us all success at this conference. But before I go, I would like to finish with two quotes, one from Anatole France and the other from myself. Anatole France said, "Until one has loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened." And I say, it is only after bonding with an animal that you will come to understand the true meaning of the phrase, "till death do us part." Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Mimi My Country, for that speech and presentation. So for everyone who's here right now, just to also quickly run through a few things, please, one, please make sure that your name that you have on your Zoom account right now corresponds to the name that we already have from the sign-up sheet. It makes it easy for us to be able to sort the names and be able to issue certificates later on for everyone who attended that way. Secondly, for everyone here, please feel free to share where you're joining us from the different parts of the world that you are here. At the last check, we had 302 people signed up from 31 countries. And here right now, we already have people from different parts of the world on the conference here right now. Finally, please feel free to share in the chat as well relevant information that you may have to the topic, and also feel free to use the chat to connect with people that are here that you would love to connect with. There are people from various backgrounds, people who are really doing amazing things that are here, that may not even be amongst the speakers, but are here with us also in the business. So please feel free to share in the chat box. That said, I'll be bringing up the first speaker for the conference, but then before bringing up the speaker, I'd love to read his profile. So the first speaker at the conference today, and sorry, before I go into this, let me also do share that we have a number of our team members here, Praise Akobo, Dr. Dauda Ayomide, and Deborah Brown. So if at any point my internet goes down and all, they would step up. So Praise especially would step up, but then if ours as well goes down, then someone else from the team would step up on our behalf. So before I go into introducing the first speaker, Praise, please just take a moment to just quickly introduce yourself. Praise, you are muted. Okay. Let me unmute. Okay, you're mute now. So feel free, go ahead, Praise. Can you hear us? Can you just quickly? Yeah, so quickly just briefly introduce yourself then before we go ahead. Okay, looks like we might need to go ahead for now. So the first speaker for this conference for today is the best-selling author of 3 books, including award winners, Training the Best Dog Ever. If you were here earlier, this is my copy of the book in hard copy that I've had for years. It's one of the dog training books that has personally shaped my work, my life, my career. And then so the big book of tricks for the best dog ever is another book that he has. His dog filmmaking awards include Pet Products from News Editor's Choice Award, Dogster Hero Award, Disney's Parenting Media Award, and American Humane's endorsement. He wrote, produced, and directed TV documentaries for PBS TV, cartoons for the Pink Panther, interactive entertainment, for the Muppets, and internet experiences for Disney. He taught at NYU's film/TV school. He and his dog, Spider, have performed tricks on live TV in more than 50 shows at the California Science Center's Dogs Exhibition. And I believe that in some sense, his dog Spider will equally feature here today. And they've equally opened the Association for Professional Dog Trainers annual conference. He has more than 1.9 million dog lovers following his Facebook page, which has resources and guidance and his Dog Hugs video podcast, which he began hosting at the height of the pandemic. For his topic, positive dog training with dog tricks for beginners and experts, please make welcome our first speaker for today, Larry Kane.
Thank you so much, Sunday. Thank you so much, Nibi. What beautiful words you said to really set up the whole idea of positive dog training. Thank you so much for the shout out for this book. When we first wrote this book, positive dog training was really just coming into its own. And now it is truly the dominant way of training dogs. And this is Spider. He welcomes you or thanks you for welcoming us as well. It's really an honor to be with you in Nigeria. This is actually my third time. I'm going to say I'm in Nigeria today, because that way I can say it's my third time being in the African continent in the last year. A couple of months ago, not you, Spider, but I was in South Africa. Here it is, volunteering with the Oscars Ark Wolf Project in Cape Town, South Africa. So I want to share with you a little bit of story about Spider. So he wasn't always so huggy right now. And in fact, in the very beginning, when I'm going to take you back to when we first meet 8 years ago at a local dog shelter, he was so rough, you could barely touch him. And he looks at no one. Well, I love a challenge. So I'm able to calm Spider down enough to leash him up for a walk. But I am telling you, it is a very long walk. So I get this idea to introduce Spider to dog. I introduced Spider to dog parkour. This is like an agility course where you're climbing on everything. And that's the moment where I get my prize. Spider looks at me and he smiles. Well, Hi, buddy. Good boy. Okay. 2 hours later, I bring Spider back to his kennel at the shelter, and he seems sad. Well, I am sad to say goodbye. The next day, I am at a pet industry trade show, a big event, and I'm asking anybody who will listen, what do you do when you see a dog's potential, but you can barely touch him? What about a dog who's already been adopted and given up on twice before? So Spider's gotten in here. And he's gotten in here. And Nimi, you said that well. When we begin to love, magic happens. So I step into an elevator. And on the floor of the elevator is a plastic spider. And my associate agrees, oh yeah, it is a sign. So immediately I phone the shelter. No, I am not quite ready, but I am ready enough. Yes, I am bringing Spider home. But he is rough and willful. And willful. Come here, buddy. Good job. Our veterinarian needs 3 assistants in order to help her examine him. Now, that's a big problem. Could be a liability, but I believe that Spider could be an asset, a diamond in the rough by learning dog tricks. And soon he performs dog tricks in the waiting room of the veterinarian's office, and the whole veterinary staff can now handle him easily. And now I am happy to say that Spider performs dog tricks for live audiences. He performs dog tricks on live television. He's even performed in Las Vegas. Flipping Spider from liability to asset by adding tame to his wild. It changed both our lives. And I'm going to share with you today some of those secrets that I teach shelter dogs on the very first day of training. One of the things that helps shelter dogs get adopted, besides being quiet, is being able to take really good pictures and videos. So here's a dog demonstrating eye line, meaning this dog is looking directly at the camera. Now I'm going to show you the secret on how we do that. As Nimi mentioned, as Sunday mentioned, some dogs are motivated by toys. So this is a trick that you can do to teach a dog to follow. And this is a filmmaking trick called following an eye line. You'll notice that that dog is on a platform, and that's what I want to share with you here. These raised platforms help a dog to feel more in focus, that something different is going to happen here. So this is a platform. You can build platforms. These are platforms made by various companies here. So from that platform, dogs can learn all kinds of things, not just tricks, but basic behaviors. Come on up here. The first thing I'm going to do with Spider is I'm going to feed him his breakfast. This is a technique called hand feeding. Come on up here, Spider. Wait. This works great on a platform. A dog learns to focus on you. This is one of the ways you get a dog to look at you. Wait. Wait. Okay, there you go. So this is a way to hand feed. It helps build your bond with your dog to hand feed this way. Of course, you've got to always be careful that that dog will accept hand feeding. Don't want to get hurt. Okay, back. Wait. Okay. Wait. Okay. Very good. So these raised platforms help dogs to focus. And it tells the dog that something special is happening here. In movies, you see platforms all the time. If a dog gets on a couch, that's a platform. Or a dog gets on a big rock or on top of a house, that's a platform. So platforms help the dog to focus and learn all kinds of tricks as well as basic behaviors. I want to show you now going from platform to platform. Better get down here. Wait. Back. Good job. So these low platforms are called place boards. And again, this is a great way to teach a dog to sit by your side. To place. Okay. From this place board, a dog learns to wait a little bit quicker. And always knows where that spot is to get back to. Wait. Now, obviously, Spider knows this quite well, but you can do this kind of basic work with a dog for a moment, a step, come back, 2 steps, and little by little, the dog learns to stay. To teach a dog to sit, notice that he's making it fancy. Come on, buddy. Here, and I'm raising the treat up, and the dog sits. So from these platforms, I can begin to move the dog to sit on the other side. Go. Go to another spot. Go. Over here. Good job, buddy. Very good. Go. Up. So we use platforms a lot in training. I want to share with you when I was in Tanzania teaching platform training in Dar es Salaam at Every Living Thing in Tanzania. And this is a shelter with many, many, many dogs. And you'll notice that the trainer here who just learned platform training is having a lot of success with it already. We also, now here's a great game that you can play with platform training. I'm speeding up the film here. It's called Come and Go. Notice we're working with 2 trainers here. And the dog learns to go from trainer to trainer. So not only is the dog learning the behavior of getting on a platform, but is also being socialized to a new trainer. Because it's great if a professional trainer like myself can teach the dog, but it's very important to socialize the dog to many other people. So we will sometimes put a trainer or just a regular person on each one of these platforms and lure the dog, encourage the dog to come around. So this game is called Come and Go. One of the types of training that I love is working with young people. And I love teaching kids to train dogs, because what happens in that experience is the kids also get these kinds of gifts that Nimi and Sunday spoke about in their speeches. They learn love, they learn empathy, learn so many things. This is an organization that I volunteer with and am now a board member of, called Canine Youth Alliance. The motto is kids helping dogs, helping kids. And these kids learn to train shelter dogs in just 3 weeks. The dogs get adopted and the kids get all kinds of skills and life lessons. Their rapid breakthroughs are magic. So Next, I want to share with you something now that I am doing, about to start on my Facebook page. It's with one of my team members who is from Nigeria, Yvonne Ogbechia. She is here as a student, and she is now creating a comic for kids to teach them dog behavior and dog training. Yvonne has created these wonderful characters and is now in the process of creating some stories with them. We're going to be starting to publish these online on the Facebook page, Positively Woof. In, I think in about 2 months, they'll be ready, maybe a little bit sooner. Really excited about Yvonne's work. And it is thrilling that, she is a Nigerian student here with her studies. So those are the basics of what I want to share with you. What I want to do now is have a little bit of fun and show some. Spider's favorite trick is the big ball, and now he's getting on a perch with 2 paws. So that's another trick.
Good job. Next one. Good job.
And that's getting in a perch. So I want to share with you now how we train the big ball. We start with a flat ball, and Spider learns to put two paws on it.
Getting him acclimated to it. And little by little, we'll fill more air. Start to move it up. Good job. And then eventually we fill up the ball all the way. Come on, Spider. Good job. We don't start rolling yet. So we're just acclimating him to it. Now I'm going to lure him forward as I'm still holding on to the ball. And little by little, I can stand up and start to move. Start to move. Now, create some distance. We use our pivot trick. Okay. Good job, buddy. Yep, get on it. And then come all the way over here. Attaboy. Good job, buddy. Very good. Pivot. Good job. Bring it. Yep. And come back. Good job. Really well done, Spike. That was fantastic. Good job. Okay.
Well, so that will give you some real basics, some insights into this. I do want to share with you Spider doing his favorite big ball trick live. He loves this. Get on the big ball. Yeah. Come on, bring it around. Good job. Keep going, buddy. Very good. Very good. Okay, now come around. Up here. Good job. Okay, up. Keep going. Notice this is the same trick, just a different instrument, a barrel instead of a ball. So that once you have these building blocks, you can learn all kinds of tricks. Well, I think I'm going to pause right now and thank you and ask for any questions. Sunday, about how much time do we have for questions?
Thank you so much.
How much time do we have for questions here?
10, 15 minutes.
Great. So I see the first one was a great question about how can I teach an old dog that is blind to adapt to a new life without vision? I want to show you one of my favorite inventions. This is called Muffin Halo for Blind Dog. Let me see if I can. So I'm going to get a better video than this. A better video here. Easy, Bubba. Hey. Oh boy. Let me see here. So Muffin's Halo for Blind Dogs. It's looks like a basketball hoop. And the inventor of this lives here in Los Angeles and loves helping blind dogs to see better. So if you don't yet have the product where you live, you can imagine that you might be able to make something like this. You could make something and it helps the dog to acclimate. So imagine closing your eyes, but having a bumper in front of you, and then you can walk safely. And if you bump into something, you know that something is there. That is the best way I can help a dog that is blind adapt to a new life without vision. So thank you for this great question. Who else has a question? I am going to share, while you're thinking of questions, I am going to share some resources for you.
George has a hand up.
Oh, yeah? Okay. I will get to you
Someone has a
one
hand up.
second. First,
I'll mute the person and see.
Go ahead.
So George has a hand up, so we'll mute him briefly. So George, you're muted. You can speak. So please just go ahead quickly. So George, you are on mute, so speak. Just please go ahead quickly and just ask a question.
Perhaps you could put a question in the chat.
Yeah, so please just share a question in the chat.
I just shared in the chat an article on Canine Youth Alliance. And this was published in the National Dog Training magazine here in America. So how can one enroll as a student with me? Tayo, that's very, very flattering. I appreciate that. You can come here to Los Angeles and become a volunteer with Canine Youth Alliance, and I'd be happy to help train you. I don't do virtual training or live training. I do this as a public service. Also, how do you select dog treats for dogs, and how do you know? Great question about dog treats. This is a very important question that Tayo has asked about dog treats. I use a whole variety of dog treats, and the belief is that when the dog doesn't know what's coming, that gets the dog curious to figure out what's going to happen if I do this behavior. So I use a variety of treats. I have kibble, I have other kinds of dog treats. I'm a fan of certain ones, but I'm not going to give a particular shout out to any ones. But I have 4 pockets in my pants, and I have different treats in each pocket. And so he never knows what's going to happen. Now this is quiet, Spider. Thank you. This is quiet. Good boy. This is called slot machine psychology. It's gambling psychology. we humans, when we don't know what the outcome is, we get curious and then we want to experiment to see if we might get a reward. And that's why gambling has become such a big business for humans. It's the same thing for dogs, using slot machine gambling psychology for dogs. So different treats and different rewards, unpredictable reward patterns. Great question. Thank you. Ishmael asks, asides those tricks, is there a trick to use in training dog how to listen to one's words, commands, or as I call them, cues? Thank you. Thank you for that question, Ishmael. Yes, I would say the central trick to use would be the platform. Because getting on, again, on this raised platform helps a dog to focus, at least just a little bit in the case of Spider. You know, he's staying there in the hopes of getting the reward. And at some point I will actually give him one. Come on onto this platform. Good job, buddy. So I would say that's the key one. It's if you have materials, wood materials, you can make a platform. If you have some kind of rubber, some kind of a rubber mat that you can put on it, that's really great, because then it'll be easier for the dog to get on without slipping off. And in fact, these platforms here that Spider is on are also treated with a particular kind of rubberizing texture and material. So that's a great way to build your own platform. I hope I answered your question there. Let's see. Is it?
There are a few other questions in the chat.
Pardon me?
There are a few other questions in the chat. There are like 3 questions already in the chat.
Great. Is it easy for temperamental dogs to cooperate? No. There is no magic trick. There's love. There is patience. It takes Spider. He's been with, hey, buddy. He's been with me 8 years. Hey. 8 years. And he's still trying to game me. So it takes time. It takes real patience. And I think, you will probably have better success as a trainer than I do because I'm more experienced, I have like expectations. And sometimes I'll get frustrated that a dog won't do it, but a beginner, might get frustrated in a different way. So it just constant renewing patience, developing that bond together. How do you train a vicious adult dog? That is, Dr. Jubril, that is not an easy question to answer, at least by me. Perhaps the other speakers will have a better way to answer that question than I. But basically, Spider was in a place where you could barely touch him. And I still have to be very careful with him in certain kinds of situations. And yet that said, he will now work with children. It has taken a number of years. So I think it takes time. And there are trainers and protocols who are much better at working with vicious dogs than I am. What age is best to commence training or get best results? The first, there's 2 answers. The first answer is as soon as the dog is a puppy, as soon as the dog is born. The second best answer is today. Any dog learns from its environment. Whether we're trying to train a dog or not train a dog, the dog is picking up cues and is training itself. So a dog is being trained whether we're intending to or not. So now is the best time. That said, puppies don't have such great attention spans. Adult dogs better. And yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks. I do it all the time.
Maybe I'll just run some questions from the pre-conference questions that people ask online when signing up.
Could you read one for me, please?
Okay, so I'll just ask 2 questions that I think are linked. Or 3 questions that I think are linked. So I'll ask the 3 of them together. So the first of those is, the person says that I'd love to learn the basics of dog training. So basically the person is asking, or let me put it this way, I think the person is trying to ask, how can one learn the basics of dog training? So that'll be the first question. The second one is, how many sessions will be needed to complete the training cycle that's for obedience training, and at what age? Then the final question is, should dog training be done regularly?
Yes, I'll start with the third one first. Dog training can be done every day, and it's just a few minutes if it's with your dog. Now, naturally, if you're going to a place where you're training somebody else's dog, or you're training a dog at a shelter, the dog will only be trained by you when you're there. But training happens in moments. Dogs have even shorter attention spans than I do. So 5 minutes you can get a lot done in 5 minutes. Go over something a dog already knows and start a new one. I love starting with getting on a platform, because that again helps the dog to focus. And then once a dog can get on a platform, then from there you can begin to teach the basics: sit, stay, come off the platform, get down on the platform, go to another platform. And then you can start getting fancy tricks if you like. So I am going to also put into the chat some resources which will help you with a whole 5 protocol, and you will be able to download. You'll see here it says free dog training logs. You can download the whole 5 dog training, the basics of that program to attempt to say when you're going to train this or that. It's really helpful. Now, also along with those free dog training logs, I've put together all the different kinds of resources for you for free. And they're all from the book that Dr. Sunday mentioned, the Training the Best Dog Ever. And thank you again for that beautiful shout out there, Dr. Sunday. The book was the #1 bestseller on Amazon for, I think, almost 2 years. And then the big book of tricks for the best dog ever is right now either the #1 or the #2 best-selling dog tricks book. I, of course, think it's the best because the breakthrough is in the book on dog tricks. You get to learn trick training programs, and curated for beginners, only 20 tricks for beginners, a bunch of tricks for intermediate level, and then different pro level programs, including a movie dog training program. And every trick, thank you, says the building block. Come here. The building blocks that you need to teach that trick. So I hope that begins to answer that question. These are great questions.
So there's probably just two questions. I'll just log that from the chat. I'll just also just quickly listen down.
Okay.
So we can now switch to the next speaker. So the first is from George, who wanted to speak earlier. So he's asking, he says there are some breeds that are difficult to train. How can one handle that? And then I'll just also love to join this with the other question earlier, which someone was asking for what breeds are easiest to train, what breeds are best to train.
Yeah, great question. So every dog can be trained, and if there are certain breeds that are known for certain qualities. So Spider is an Australian cattle dog. They were originally bred in the 1800s with wild dingo. And they wanted to breed a dog we call it drivey, has a lot of drive. And in this case, drive to move cattle, herd cattle across long stretches of land. And so the drive in an Australian cattle dog will be a lot different than the drive of, say, a Cocker Spaniel, if you've heard of that breed. And, you know, and yet a Cocker Spaniel is much more likely to sit in your lap and cuddle, while a dog like Spider, he's tough. It really took me a long time to be able to get him to cooperate. You know, as I mentioned before, our veterinarian did need 3 assistants in order to help her examine him. But it took about a year. And now we perform dog tricks in the waiting room, and the whole veterinary staff can handle them easily. Did I answer those questions? So
Yes,
it depends on the dog's drive. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
So for everyone, for one final time, this is my copy of the book. So please feel free to have a copy of the book if you're able to. It's a great resource on dog training, and it's one that just simplifies the entire process. Yes, thank you for putting them in the background as well. So the book simplifies the entire process of dog training, obedience training to be specific, and then gives like a step-by-step, week-by-week, measurable action plan on what you can go through to be able to train a dog, the tricks, the everything, literally everything that you require. So thank you so much, Larry, for
a pleasure. I look forward to everybody else's presentations, and thank you again for the great questions.
Thank you. So Spider, thank you, Spider, for joining us as well.
Yeah, thank you, Spider, for helping out so much.
Yes. All right, so we'll be moving to the next speaker now. Okay, so someone is asking how one can get the book. I'm not so sure if the book is readily available in Nigeria. For me, someone helped me to get a copy of the book from the United States back then, and then the person brought it back. So, but I think you can equally get the book on Amazon. So that's one way, for example, that you can get the book. So you just check up on Amazon, and then you'll be able to get the book. You could also order a hard copy, like I have here, and then be able to have it delivered to you, or just get a soft copy and then read the book that way. So
I will say one thing more about the dog training book. It looks like later this, I may be breaking some news here, It looks like later this year, there's going to be an audiobook version of this book, and I'm going to be reading it.
Nice.
So I may be out ahead of myself here because we haven't officially announced it, but stay tuned.
Okay. Thank you so much. So please, everyone, do grab a copy, hard copy, soft copy, and then there's the audio version coming. So please feel free to grab the audio copy as well once it's available. Yes, so we'll now be switching to the next speaker. Okay, Dr. Ezekiel Aliedu is asking for the title of the book. I'll type it in the chat once we're able to listen. So our second speaker for the conference for today, by the way, all the speakers for today are personally, one way or the other, are very important to me as a person. Our second speaker for the conference for today is someone who, before reading her profile, is one of the people who has been a part of our community for the conferences from the get-go. If I recall correctly, from the very first conference that we started in 2021, if I recall correctly, she was one of those that joined us for that conference, and from that point onward, she's been with us at every conference. So it's a really humbling experience to have people like that who are doing amazing things and then are a part of our community. So our next speaker for today is someone who is the executive director of Positive Perspectives Assistance Dogs, or otherwise called PAWPADS. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Speech Communication. She holds a Master's in Experiential Education and an AS degree in Assistance Dog Education. As a Peace Corps volunteer in Mongolia, she created and published the first Mongolian Sign Language Dictionary, the base for the creation of a unified sign language in the country. She was the country director for Go Ireland, an international humanitarian aid organization in Bosnia, Kosovo, and Central America. And when she returned to the US in 2005, she attended the Assistance Dog Institute, after which she founded her organization, PAWPADS, which is a 501c3 organization whose mission is to facilitate the power of the human canine bond and to enhance the lives of others through the process of training assistance dogs and the outcome of placing them with people with disabilities. He has developed diverse experiential programs emphasizing life skills through assistance dog training for youth, veterans, inmates, college students, and more. So here to speak on the topic, Canine Catalysts, Strategies for Launching International Service Dog Initiatives. Please make welcome Linda Paul.
Thank you so much. I am honored to be here. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes, we can.
You can. Okay, good.
I can't, I'm not actually seeing anything.
Yeah, I also have a blank screen. I had your first slide and then it disappeared.
All right, of course. It says your screen sharing is paused. What's that mean?
Maybe start it again.
You know, let me try that.
Yes.
My
Oh, it's back up.
There now. Thank you.
All right, let's. All right, is it still there?
It's gone again.
Gone again.
All right, I think I know what the problem is. How about there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, for some reason, and I can't see all of you. That's okay. I think I have it sorted out. I am so honored to be here today, and wow, what a great presentation from Larry. That's some big shoes to follow. I just loved it. So today I want to talk about the intensity of the bond that a service dog handler and a service dog have, because it is among the most intense, life-altering, powerful experience that exists. So my hope is to get people thinking about the power and possibilities of service dogs, and hopefully to inspire you to become ambassadors, so to speak, for fostering a world where people with disabilities can benefit from the life-altering, um, life-changing assistance that these remarkable dogs can provide. So part of this this little glitch here is that I can't see the speaker screen. So forgive me for looking down at my notes at times. So just a little about my background. Sunday already shared I am the founder and executive director of Positive Perspectives Assistance Dogs, or paw pads. But my prior life was shaped by working in international development. So one of the defining experiences of my life was as a Peace Corps volunteer in Mongolia. When I arrived in country to become a deaf education specialist, I realized that the deaf community didn't have a unified language. And without a unified language, how can one demand or access basic civil rights? So we began the process and produced and published Mongolia's first sign language dictionary. So that work is still being done. It laid the base for the work that's continuing today. Then after Peace Corps and completing a graduate degree in experiential education, I worked as for a international humanitarian organization called Goal Ireland, where we did post-war reconciliation and reconstruction in the Balkans. We worked with child labor and education, disaster mitigation and freshwater projects in Central America. And I loved working internationally, but for a variety of reasons, I decided to go back to school again and get an associate's degree at Bergen University of Canine Studies, which at the time was called the Assistance Dog Institute, and went on to learn how to train service dogs and start my own program. As you can tell by my background, my passion is empowering other people. So Paw Pads was created with a dual mission in mind. The first was to utilize the power of the human-canine bond through the process of training assistance dogs. And it was great to hear Larry mention that working with youth and how it can create magic. Some of our programs, we have worked with youth at risk, inmates in a federal prison, college students. And so working with them as they trained service dogs, they learn just so many different lessons and life skills, such as emotional regulation, self-control, parenting skills, communication skills, advocacy, patience. So we use that process to help other people's, and then the outcome of placing them with people with disabilities. So we've worked with this variety of people, and we've placed over 40 dogs with people with physical or mobility challenges, type 1 diabetes, as well as facility dogs in schools, assisted living centers, and within the judicial system. But I still miss working internationally. And so that's how Paw Pads International was born. It's a fledgling initiative. And so I'm very excited to talk about it and as we build it. But sadly, around the world, people with disabilities often are overlooked, or they're not seen as contributing members to society. And likewise, dogs are not seen as having the ability to impact and enhance lives on such a profound level. So the fact is, service dogs can help people with disabilities be more independent, thus relying less on others, and contribute to society in countless ways. So not only can service dogs open new doors for their partner, their impact has a ripple effect. So they often can change an entire family structure, and that just ripples out to society. So Paw Pads International wants to help others reshape the lives of people with disabilities and dogs around the world by pioneering the use of service dogs with people with disabilities. So as you can see, according to this map of self-identified service dog teams around the world, there is a lot of room for growth for partnering of dogs with people with disabilities. So I want to take just a little step back and discuss what assistance dogs are. Assistance dogs is basically an umbrella term for service dogs, which are dogs trained to help a person with a mobility disability. Guide dogs, which are dogs trained to guide a person who is blind or vision impaired. Hearing dogs, dogs trained to alert to a person who is deaf or hard of hearing. Medical alert dogs, they are trained to alert to a medical condition such as type 1 or such as diabetes, seizure response, and that list is growing all the time. Autism service dogs, and they are dogs that are trained to work with and keep safe a child with autism, as well as psychiatric service dogs. They are trained to help with a psychiatric disorder. I will say the terms assistance dogs and service dogs are often used interchangeably. And we'll talk a little about terminology in this field. The key with all of these types of assistance dogs
Hello?
is, oh, can you hear me? Let me make sure.
Yes, we can hear you. Just go ahead.
Okay.
I think I was having an issue hearing you, but it's not. So, anyways, just go ahead. I'll write for the person in the chat.
Okay, and I'm unable
Just
to
go
see
ahead.
the chat right now, so I apologize for that.
Yes, no problem. Just go ahead.
Excellent. So the key to assistance dogs is that they are individually tasked, trained, to mitigate a disability. So those are that's the key wording, individually task trained to mitigate a disability.
So, Mr. Eden, you call me? Okay.
In the United States,
Solo. Who?
So, Dr. Dada, you
Solo.
let
The
me,
man tell you what he do. He go put our fuel for Village Square. They steal our fuel. So your
Dr.
money no
Dada.
complete. Hello.
Sorry for the mix-up.
no problem.
Please go ahead. So sorry.
Technology. So in the United States and many other countries, people who partner with service dogs have what is called public access rights. So meaning that the law protects them to have their dog out in public places. We in the assistance dog industry are also discovering more and more ways that dogs can assist people every day, assist people with different disabilities. So it's definitely a high growth area. And one last note, the terminology surrounding dogs who assist people can be very, very confusing. So for purposes of this presentation, we're going to be focusing on assistance dogs, or those who have been individually task trained to mitigate a disability. So the impact, I can't emphasize enough the power and the transformative impact that service dogs have on the lives of people with disabilities, their families, and by extension, society in general. Service dogs have proven to be instrumental in fostering independence and improving overall health and outlook. So I want to share a short video, as long as the technology gods are with me, of it was taken during partner training camp, which is the training. It's about a 2-week training where we teach the partners together. Kayvon has a form of muscular dystrophy and was just learning how to work with his new partner, Tahoe. And it's also an example of a fundraising video. So that's why there is a kind of a plug, but I think it's a good example of just some of the things that our dogs can do.
Thank you for your generous gift. We needed you, and you were there for us. Your donation makes it possible for Paw Pads to continue to train and place service dogs with people like Kayvon, even in this time of COVID-19.
Providing physical assistance and performing tasks useful to a person with a physical mobility challenge, bringing companionship, psychological, and social benefits. The joy, confidence, and increased independence made possible through a partnership with a Paw Pads service dog is priceless. And the support of people like you make that happen.
Again, thank you for being there for Paw Pads.
All right, was everyone able to see that?
Yes, we were.
Good, excellent. So that's just a short example of some of the things a service dog can help out with. And if you want to see more examples, feel free to check out Pawpad's social media. We often post different short clips of diabetic alert training and service dog training. So training the dogs. I am actually only going to briefly touch on this because it is such a huge process, but at the same time, it's also just a part of the bigger picture. So it takes us approximately 2 to 3 years to fully train a service dog or an assistance dog. Ideally, we begin working with them at, just as babies, as puppies, generally 8 to 10 weeks. And we train upwards of 60 different behaviors, everything from turning on lights and tugging open doors to going to get help, to alerting to blood sugar changes, helping with balance, and the list goes on. All Pawpad's dogs we dual train all of our dogs across the board, and I'll talk a little more about that in a couple of slides. But training them across the board for placement with either people with physical disabilities or type 1 diabetics or as facility dogs gives them more options. And one of the things that is so important to us is that our dogs love what they do. It would be like me doing a job where I had to sit behind a desk day in and day out. It wouldn't be a good fit. We don't want our dogs to have a life that isn't a good fit for them. So that's just a very high priority. Another thing we do is we always try keeping the final placement in mind. So as an example, we try not to train using hand signals because a person who is a quadriplegic and has no use of their hands can't use their hands. So we've done them a disservice. So we're always trying to keep that final placement in mind. Same with having a dog jump up on us. We never encourage that because someone who doesn't have great balance or a child shouldn't be jumped up on. It could cause more damage. A big one is we only use positive reinforcement training. I fully believe that, our dogs deserve to get paid for the work they do, but for us, it's also an ethical decision. And based on the fact that we want our dogs to work with very vulnerable people because they have a bond with them, not because they fear a correction or they're afraid of something if they don't do something right. So we need them to work for the bond and to work for the praise and the food, of course. We also want dogs who think. We don't want dogs who just wait to do anything, or if we were to use anything but positive reinforcement, we don't want to shut our dogs down. We want them to think. And the success rate can vary quite a bit. Dogs need to pass a lot of assessments before they can be placed. So health assessments, they have to have good hips and good hearts and good eyes, behavior assessments, and skill assessments. So there's a variety of assessments, and we start assessments from day one, and that goes all the way through to placement. We do find that dogs that have been purpose bred have a much higher success rate of placement. Not to say that rescue dogs can't be placed as service dogs. We've had some very big successes, but the overall success rate is much lower. All right, moving on. So in 2016, I had the honor of going to Mongolia. I participated in a U.S. State Department International Information Program, and in coordination with the U.S. Embassy, traveled to Mongolia with Tori, our spokes dog at the time, to introduce the concept of service dogs, to do a feasibility assessment, and possibly lay the groundwork for service dogs, as Mongolia had recently passed newly developed disability rights laws. So not only did we introduce the many things that an assistance dog can do, but we also demonstrated and shared the power of positive reinforcement training and the power of the bond. People were amazed at what Tori could do, and then they were even more amazed when they learned that she was trained with all reinforcement-based training. So I wanted to talk about kind of considerations and next steps, or things to think about and do if you want to introduce service dogs in your country, or begin your own program. Or even begin to learn how to train service dogs. So we're going to go through considerations and next steps. This is not even close to all encompassing, but I hope that it gets people thinking. So one of the key components is disability rights in your country. So what is the status of disability related laws that currently exist? Are there laws that protect the rights of people with disabilities? Are there specific laws already established that focus on or are related to service animals? Do they include all types of service animals? So in Mongolia, their new laws were quite progressive, but they only included guide dogs because the concept of other types of assistance dogs didn't yet exist. So when the laws were developed, they included guide dogs, which was great. And our hope is to help expand that. So some of the next steps, after you found out if there are any disability related laws and do they cover service dogs, is to work with government ministries and officials to help advocate for appropriate laws to protect people with disabilities who utilize service dogs. Work and support other advocacy organizations. And ensure inclusivity. All the way along my presentation here, I try to emphasize the inclusion of the people who will be affected. So ensure that you're working with people with disabilities to help be their voice or support their voice. Another consideration, which is a pretty big one, are cultural and societal views, also public education and advocacy. So what are the societal views about people with disabilities? What are the societal views about dogs? And is there a cultural or religious aspect to these views? Another thought, what is your vision? And what would be feasible either in your country or within your capacity? So these are all just questions to begin thinking about. And the next steps, help to raise the general public's awareness about the abilities of people with disabilities. help to educate the public about the abilities and usefulness of canine assistance. And be prepared to kind of alter your expectations to meet where society is. And one way to do that is to start with what we call home helpmates. And so if the cultural or societal considerations are really just too big to overcome, or because change takes time and can be slow, one thing to consider would be to begin what we call training home helpmates. They are fully trained service dogs, but they don't go out in public. So they don't have that public access. But they still can change lives just in the home. And I will say with cultural differences, we always try to be considerate of any issues, and we do our best to educate and respect those that might be uneasy around our dogs. Education and advocacy, a key component to successfully introducing integration is fostering public education and awareness. So this can be done through a variety of ways. In Mongolia, we did 25 presentations. We met over 1,000 people face to face. We did 2 TV interviews. We did 2 magazine and newspaper interviews, as well as a fairly large social media campaign. We met with medical personnel, occupational therapists, physical therapists, doctors. We met with college students. We met with the women's shelter. We met with schools. It was a kind of full-on media campaign. All right, moving on to infrastructure and logistics. Again, just some things to think about. Sourcing appropriate dogs. So appropriate dogs or puppies are ideally dogs that have already been bred, to have some level of social acceptance. So for example, in the United States and in Europe, we're talking primarily Labrador retrievers, golden retrievers, crosses of Labrador and golden retrievers. You also want to take into consideration, what have the dogs been bred for? For example, a herding dog like Beautiful Spider in Larry's presentation is bred to herd. Sled dogs have been bred to pull. Protection breeds have been bred to protect. So it's important to kind of take those considerations and choose dogs that have the highest success rate. Assessments, kind of health and temperament. Dog food and supplies. Do you have access in your country to healthy dog foods, to supplies such as collars and leashes and harnesses, training treats, and the like? And veterinary care. Do you have easy access to good veterinary care? Also to think about, who will train the dogs? Will you train the dogs? Will you work with others to train the dogs? How many dogs will be trained at one time? And where will they be housed? That's a big consideration. Also, general safety, both for dogs and partners. So those are the considerations. Some of the next steps can be to research. So create lists of where to source certain items, services, and puppies. See if there are any breed-specific clubs or organizations that you can work with and partner and learn from. Educate yourself and your team about everything dog. and then learn the specifics of assistance dog training. And assess safety issues and how they can be mitigated. So some safety issues can be uneven sidewalks, pollution, garbage on the ground that a dog could get into, stray dogs, and public safety. So in Mongolia, those concerns were around pollution. They have an inversion of pollution several months of the year. And so we had to consider the dog's health and safety. As far as public safety, again, my example from Mongolia is twice a year they would have the culling of dogs, and sadly, I believe that's moving now to spay neuter as a way to control the population, but I know people were afraid of their dogs getting shot. And the other one was street dogs, the concern of what would happen if the street dogs were there, and also societal expectations or societal experience. Most of the population in Mongolia had experience with street dogs and protection dogs. And so to see a little golden retriever walk into a restaurant and go under a table and, you know, be perfectly behaved was quite an experience. Funding and support is always a challenge in any area. So a consideration is, you know, what business structure and what administration skills do you need? Also volunteers, management of volunteers. What level of training will they have? And what do you expect them to do? And, you know, will you be able to generate sufficient resources and funding to not only put in place and start an organization, but also maintain the necessary canine, human, and physical infrastructure required? So next steps are seeking out those who might have an interest, hold fundraising, or sometimes we just call them friend-raising events, where we want to demonstrate what our dogs can do and how they can change lives, and you know, get people kind of on board through a friend-raising event. Also seeking grants, looking to lower expenses through in-kind donations. So to get dog food donated or veterinary care donated. And you can also offer fee-for-service programs. And that could be everything from general dog training to programs, speaking programs or training programs. And it's okay to start small, one dog at a time. I worked out of my garage while also working other jobs for many years as I was building paw pads. So it's okay to start slow and just continually share your vision, as I know so many people here have done. Meeting interested stakeholders, again, people with disabilities and organizations that focus on disabilities really need to be involved. Developing relationships with potential supporters. This could include civic clubs such as the Lions Club, the Rotary Club. It could include universities, businesses, friends, family, strangers, everyone you know. Just start sharing that vision. All right, so personal education. There are a lot of different skills needed. It takes a variety, and I can't even begin to tell you how many different hats it takes to start and run an assistance dog program. Sometimes I joke that I am the chief pooper picker-upper because someone's got to do it. But at the same time, I get the joy of training or reaching out and talking to people. So it just takes a variety of skills, and it takes both dog skills and human skills. So, and ethics, it really is important to consider kind of the ethics of training methods and where you personally stand. We'll talk a little more before the end of the presentation about that as well. So learn how to source, assess, train, and place dogs to mitigate specific disabilities. That is one short sentence that packs a lot into it. This alone takes time and experience. Experience you can only get by doing it, by trying it. And I will say, every single dog I've taught has taught me so much. Some have taught me more than others, but I learn skills every single dog. Become disability aware. So learn about different disabilities. For example, not every person with multiple sclerosis presents the same or has the same needs. And also, many disabilities are invisible. So learn about the disabilities that you're thinking about placing dogs with. Whether you operate as an NGO or a nonprofit or not, establishing an organization takes a certain level of business sense and business knowledge. So research kind of what steps you need to take, whether that be registering your organization, what are the legal guidelines, how can you accept donations, do you need a board of directors, and what type of administrative skills are necessary and how can you develop them. Also practice developing advocacy and education skills. Even here in the United States, where we've had the Americans with Disabilities Act for decades, I still am very actively needing to advocate and to educate people about the law and about the rights of people with disabilities. So practicing that and learning the laws and talking to the general public, it is all part of what we do. And network with and learn from a variety of stakeholders. This could include organizations, people, potential stakeholders, people within the disability community, people within the dog training community, people within business and nonprofit community. So it truly takes a village to raise a service dog. Another consideration is your client or the focus. What type of disabilities do you want to train dogs to mitigate? I initially learned how to train service dogs for people with physical mobility issues. Then a few years later, I learned how to train diabetic alert dogs. Now we dual train all of our dogs, as I mentioned, because it takes a very specific dog to excel at diabetic alert, for example. All of our dogs know it, but some don't have the temperament or the drive for it. So by dual training across the board, it allows us to kind of decide what job is best. And we also find that some dogs are better suited to be facility dogs. Those are the dogs that love everybody and everyone. And so they're they're better suited to larger groups of people. Again, the next steps, work with groups or organizations that focus on that specific disability and learn everything you can. Listen to what people with disabilities want and need. And go in with the attitude that this is not a handout, but rather a paw up. And I want to say that again. Really want to emphasize that. Go in with an attitude of this is not a handout. This is not charity. This is rather a paw up. It is empowering. Other possible considerations that I'll go through relatively quickly here. Characteristics of the setting or environment. And I'll say you don't let these overwhelm you. These are just other things to think about. So examples of this are, like I mentioned, the pollution levels in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, and the impact they could have on the health of our dogs. Another consideration of an environment is those that have prison programs. Well, the dogs still need to get out and be trained in public. So it's one of the characteristics we need to take into consideration. Allergies. This has been a decades-long argument or issue, and it has been addressed. And there are some studies out that we can fall back on, so to speak, but consult with organizations that have already dealt with it. Fear of dogs. Seriously, the best way to counter fear of dogs and to deal with people that have fear is to make sure that our dogs are well behaved and are what we like to call unobtrusive helpmates. So they, I mean, one of the biggest compliments we can get as service dog trainers is when we get up from a restaurant and we walk out with our dog and people say, I didn't even know there was a dog there. So it's slow going, but the best way to counter that is with very well behaved dogs. Training styles and ethics. There are those that will say that working with prong collars or e-collars, you know, that trains faster. Then that may be, I wouldn't know. But one, it's at the expense of the bond. It's at the expense of the dog and the relationship. Faster is not always better. We've got 2 to 3 years of working with these dogs. So, and in that time, they go through puppyhood and adolescence, and you know, so there are so many different stages. But my other question around working with aversive tools is why? Why? Why would I want to? Why wouldn't I want to be a true partner to these dogs? We're asking them to live a life that is not normal. And the least we can do is treat them with the utmost respect and that they deserve. Program models. There are a lot of program models out there. A lot of people use puppy raisers, so they'll get puppies. They'll go out to puppy raiser homes and then come back for final training after about a year and a half. Another program model is, for example, we keep our dogs close because we utilize them in programs, so we need to have access to them, and we're more of a hands-on throughout the entire process. But there are a variety of kind of program models that people can look at. General costs, consider the unexpected or extraneous costs of running a program. Things like registration fees, insurance costs, heating, electricity, air conditioning, and transportation, things like that. And then liability and insurance. Last but not least, consider what type of liability you may be facing and what type of insurance, if that's an option, would be appropriate. So the next steps, which popped up early, is be curious, research, ask how others have addressed these considerations. Don't be shy to ask about questions that you can't find an answer, you don't know, or you're debating on. All right, putting it all together, the challenges. Probably one of the biggest challenges.
So you could just round up if you could.
Oh, yep, I've just got 2 slides. So
Okay.
lack of disability rights laws, social stigmas against dogs and people with disabilities, disparity, economic, class structure, education, communication, language barrier, funding and support, and the 2 to 3 years of training before a dog is ready. But I just encourage you to see challenges as opportunities. And the lessons learned. It is a process. Have realistic expectations. It requires skills with dogs and humans. Document, document, document. Language matters. I could do an entire class I have done on language matters. That's from things like we don't use the word command anymore because that's a very subservient do it or else. We use the word cue. Make sure you partner with those who share your same ethical and philosophical beliefs, and the physical and psychological well-being for participants, clients, and dogs are equally important. Also, dogs will be dogs. They are always dogs first. Make sure you celebrate the small wins. Never underestimate the power of something as simple as a dog retrieving a pen, a phone, or something else for someone in a wheelchair. Something as small as that can change a life. And there are some resources out there. Paw Pads, there's Assistance Dogs International, International Guide Dog Foundation, Bergen University of Canine Studies, service organizations, other organizations such as Dog a Love, and the World Wide Web. But just be careful that what you find or see out there on the web is appropriate and real. And that is it. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the technical challenges, but I appreciate that you have listened.
Thank you so much. We can already see interest from people in the chat box for everything that you've talked about. We have 2 people from Nigeria already saying that they'll be interested in such an initiative, learning about assistance dogs, and or probably being a part of assistance dog programs if they do come up in Nigeria. And one person even says he's looking for how to partner also, or how to be a part of your project and all. So thank you so much. So we would, because of time, we won't be able to take any questions. So we'll just jump to the next presentation and all. And so, yes, so the next speakers, our next speakers we have 2 people teaming up for the next presentation. So I'll just read their profile quickly. But then please do not forget that I'm only reading the part of the profile, not the entire profile. So please, you can check through the brochure for the entire profile to learn more about the person in depth. So the next speakers are, the next speaker, is someone who's the president of the Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers. She has been training and consulting professionally for over 30 years. She's the founder and owner of Dogs by Foster, Behaviour and Training, which offers science-based behavior consulting, and various training services to build human-dog relationships. She also consults with veterinary services, veterinary practices, rehabilitation clinics, and animal care businesses to develop stress-free and behavioral sound practices. Fueled by the passion for the progression and professionalization of the field, she joined the CCPDT board in 2018 and was elected president in 2021. Our second speaker who will be teaming up with her as well is someone who finds joy in helping people learn to teach animals, including human animals, with kindness. She's a biologist by training. She's fascinated by the science of learning. She's on the board of the Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers, and she's a faculty at Victoria Stilwell Dog Training Academy and a host of other things that she has to her credit. So please welcome, for a presentation titled Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers, please make welcome Ashley Foster and Edith Young.
Great, thank you so much for having us. I'm Ashley Foster. I will start us off today, and then we will add additional information. First, I would just like to thank Sunday and your team for pulling this amazing event together, and the other presenters for providing such insightful information. Our goal today is to let you all know more about the Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers. I'm going to give you a brief history and the overall goals of the organization, and we'll give you some additional details as well as the services and resources that are available for both professionals as well as consumers. And then Arit's going to go into more details about the accreditation and our standards of practice and code of ethics. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so if we can get to the history slide.
Okay, so you can see my screen. I just wanted to check.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, so I will just give a brief history of the Certification Council of Professional Dog Trainers. It all started in 1995, where the Association of Professional Dog Trainers Board of Directors, called a meeting to discuss the feasibility of developing a certification process for dog trainers. That resulted in no less than 26 different professionals from a variety of different organizations, such as Delta Society, which is now Pet Partners, Animal Behavior College, a variety of different groups that joined together with other training professionals and behavior professionals and veterinarians who helped develop the early stages. The goal, which still holds true today, was to design and implement an independent, self-supporting certification program meaningful to trainers, other related professionals, and the public. So in 2000, the APDT Education Committee, in conjunction with their board of directors, worked with applied animal behaviorists and other programs to develop the original outline and subject matter outline, And then just within 2 years, the APDT contracted with a professional testing corporation who we still work with. They oversee all of our administrative and testing process. And they work with the education committee as well as a dozen different outside experts to review every single exam question. And that led to the first administration of the exam in 2001. Back in that time, there were 120 certificants that applied and took the test, and 117 passed the examination. So as we move forward there, that first administration, like I said, was in 2001. Officially in the fall of 2002, the Certification Council was designated as a nonprofit organization that separated, but still works in conjunction with the Association of Professional Dog Trainers, and became its own entity. So during that time, over the last 22 years, we have now, through a lot of growth, development, and expansion, we now proudly administer psychometrically sounds for Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers. We offer certification for behavior consultants for canines. Both of those examinations are accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, as well as we offer a certified professional dog trainer knowledge and skills assessed evaluation, which is an actual skills assessment that the certificants must undergo. That credential is not yet accredited by the NCCA. Okay. So since this time, we essentially have gotten to the point that we now have 5,597 certified training and behavior professionals all around the world. The majority of those are in the United States, but we are dispersed around 27 different countries, our certificants are. Okay. So now I'll talk a little bit of why it matters if a dog trainer is certified. It's been so great that you all have had such good understanding of the positive impacts of positive reinforcement, both with Larry and with Linda. And that's the biggest premise with our organization and why certification is so important, is that we want to make sure that we are helping professional credentialing to ensure that trainers are undergoing education and evaluation in order to basically be able to indicate that they have undergone the necessary skills to offer the service that they are providing to the public. Some of the reasons why this is so important is public safety is one of the top concerns. And part of this is that the knowledge of behavior varies greatly across the board. This basically means that we don't quite know what a professional, in the absence of certification, we don't know what their thoughts and beliefs are of their knowledge on behavior in general. So when we undergo a certification process, we at least know that certificants are agreeing to the advancement and utilizing humane methods in their profession. The other aspect of this is that there's many misconceptions in the field of training and behavior, and this can create a large problem in not just the methods and techniques that are happening, but it can present a public safety concern. One of the more common misconceptions that we still see within the field is that of some professionals will use dominance or pack theory as a reason for dogs' behavior. We now know that dog behavior exists out of a reinforcement history. So a good example of this would be a dog that jumps up on someone. A professional that utilizes pack theory will say that the dog is doing that for dominance, which also then indicates a professional to, or may validate a professional to use more correction-based methods. However, we know that jumping up behavior is occurring because of a feedback or a result, often a positive result from the dog's perspective. So a dog's essentially jumping up to get attention, and that creates a feedback loop and a reinforcement history. So the dog is essentially jumping up as a way to achieve attention versus achieving status. So this misconception is a really important one to understand. A lot of the organizations, whether they be the educational programs that are available, different membership groups like the Association of Professional Dog Trainers, and professional societies such as the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, all have position statements against using pack theory and dominance-based methods and models as a way to modify and train dogs. This, of course, then leads into our other public safety concern, is that there's many different methods available. As we know, we're here today to talk about the positives of utilizing positive reinforcement. The reality is that in the absence of certification, there are endless methods employed to train dogs and to modify their behavior. With a giant expanse of methods that are utilized, it can be very complex for consumers to navigate and decipher the methods that a professional employs, and to ensure that they're humane and grounded in sound and ethical methods. Oftentimes, they can still be, or a lot of professionals still are using punishment-based. As Linda said, I personally don't know why as well, but there are a lot of professionals that will still use more punishment-based and dominance-based models. So one of the bonuses of working with a certified professional is that they are required to adhere to the standards of practice and to understand and promote LEMA, which is the least intrusive, minimally aversive, in their training and behavior work. And Arit will go into more detail of this in a moment. But the big thing with that is that we know that as the field of training and behavior continues to advance and progress, that there continue knowledge that professionals should employ the most humane methods and techniques available. The CCPDT certification requires that certificants follow the humane hierarchy, which Arit will also talk about momentarily, and utilize this for behavior and training interventions. The biggest aspect is this that falls into the potential fallout of bad advice. So when we're working with professionals that haven't adhered to utilizing humane methods and may apply the many misconceptions, that we can end up with fallout from bad advice. So essentially negative impacts from inappropriate methods. This can fall into issues with damage to the relationship with the human and the dog. So a really great example of this is if you were to employ a punitive-based method to a dog that was fear-based for, say, reactivity. So typically what would happen in a punishment-based model would be that you would set the dog up to react. You would then apply punishment to get rid of the overt behavior. The issue with utilizing that is it can actually cause the behavior to get worse. So if you just think of a really great human example, if you were presented with your biggest fear trigger and were accompanied by your good companion, and every time that you voiced your concern, that you were to receive some type of punishment, whether that be a shock stimulus on your neck or a collar correction or even a verbal correction, what can happen, of course, is that we may stop communicating that we are fearful because we want to avoid the correction. However, our emotional state will likely get worse, and it will also start to damage the relationship between the human and the dog. The other aspect of this is that it can cause great risk to family and to others, is that when working with professionals that have not adhered to humane training practices, that the learner can experience an increase in aggression, anxiety, and fear, leading to additional behavior challenges, including owner-directed aggression. We now know that suppressed behaviors may spontaneously reappear, and also a dog's communication may be impaired, lessening their warning communications and putting humans and other animals at risk. Okay. So the other aspect is this leads us into the professional accountability portion of why it matters if a dog trainer is certified. That in an unregulated industry, certification provides a structure for professionals to be pushed to acquire skills and education in order to go through that objective evaluation system through testing. This is a great way for them to ensure that they meet or exceed their own degree of professional competency. And it's also a really great model and tool for the public to be able to have a service that we know that professionals have committed to the requirements of certification. Okay, you can go ahead and proceed, Arit. Thank you. So the Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainer does offer services and resources for both professionals and consumers. For professionals, as we've talked about, this certification process allows candidates to evaluate their own skill set and to ensure that they're providing at least minimal competency within the field. The other lovely thing is that in order to maintain certification, certificants must maintain their certification by undergoing continuing education credits. So that ensures that our certificants maintain a advancement and understanding in progression in the field. It allows those standards to be enforced. Additionally, it provides really great connections with other professionals as well as consumers. On the consumer side of things, that we on our website, which I will link in the chat in a moment, provide resources for helping choose a qualified dog professional trainer. So you can go in and do a search by your area, and that will list out certified professionals. We also do offer simple consumer-facing training and behavior tips on our website called fetchtheanswer.com. And the other lovely thing is it does create a system of accountability where consumers have the ability to address complaints. So if they have a concern about anything with a trainer, they can contact us directly and we can look into those concerns. All right, so now I'll go ahead and hand it over to Urit so she can start to discuss accreditation and why it matters.
There we go. Unmuting myself. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Ashley. So I'm just going to dive right in and talk about accreditation and what that means. So accreditation essentially means that there is an outside organization that is looking at what the CCPDT is doing and that is ensuring that what we are doing is a reasonable standard. There's a whole bunch of ways that they do this, actually. They have us go through certain steps on a regular basis. I won't go into all of those, but those include things called standard setting, where we're trying to figure out what people actually do in the field, what is a reasonable standard to hold people to. And there's certain things that we do in terms of psychometrics about the exam, and all of that ensures that our standards are reasonable and objective and actually have an impact in this field where we're trying to have an impact. Now, one of the things that comes down to making sure those standards are objective is separating education from testing. And the reason this is important is because if I am a school and I'm teaching people about dog training, and then at the end of it, I give them an examination, it is in my interest that they pass. I want people to come to my school and then be able to say to the next person, hey, I went to Random Dog Training Academy, and Random Dog Training Academy set me up to be a dog trainer, and I'm really enjoying my career. So I want everyone who goes to Random Dog Trainer Academy to pass, which means that there's always a little bit of an inherent bias in any exam that is administered by the same organization as the organization that is doing the educating. So separating education and evaluation helps ensure that an objective standard is being followed. And this is why APDT and CCPDT actually split off, was because APDT wanted to ensure an objective standard. That objective standard is also part of what allows us to be accredited. We at CCPDT are not a membership organization. You cannot just join us and become a member. We are not an education provider. We do help the public to some extent with resources, but we don't provide direct education even to the public, and we do not provide any education to dog professionals. So we're a separate entity. As Ashley pointed out earlier, we split off from APDT back in 2002. APDT, the Association of Professional Dog Trainers here in the United States, is a membership organization where you can just join by paying membership dues, and they provide education. So we allow that education to happen, of course, but it's happening from a completely separate entity. We do not share boards. We do not share funds. We don't have any connection at all. And obviously, there are other educational opportunities out there. But essentially, what CCPDT's goal is to create an objective standard that regardless of where you were taught the skills you've learned, you can actually then point to something. Oh, pardon me, that was not supposed to go yet. Point to something and essentially say, here is how you can see that I am truly someone who is qualified in this field. And we are accredited specifically by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies. There are other accreditation companies out there, depending on what country you're in, what jurisdiction you're in, and so on. So let me move on to talking about our standards of practice and code of ethics. So in addition to ensuring that people have a certain minimum level of knowledge, which is obviously an incredibly important part of competency, is to ensure that people are at a certain level of knowledge. One of the things that we do, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know why the cursor keeps moving itself without me intending it to. One of the things that we have done, along with a couple of other major organizations who are actually education organizations in the field, is we've come up with a standards of practice and code of ethics for dog training. This is incredibly important because, as Ashley was pointing out, there are no standards that are from the government, and we need to do something to ensure that people do things correctly. So the first thing we look at, and I'm dividing this, I should just quickly say that the standards of practice and code of ethics is actually divided up slightly differently than I'm dividing it up today. I categorized it into categories that I hoped would make this all be briefer and make it a little bit more easily approachable. So there's a bunch of things that relate to competency. So what the major piece of competency is that knowledge base, which is understanding and promoting Lima training and behavior work. I'm going to get into Lima in more detail in a moment, so I'm just going to leave Lima to the side. That's that least intrusive, minimally aversive. I'm just not going to touch on it quite yet. What other things we expect in terms of competency is we expect certificates to engage in continuing professional development. They need to keep working on being professionals who are adequately trained. And that means they're going to do continuing education. And that means that they're not going to just take someone else's word for things. They're going to read source materials and actually do research. It also means being very careful not to represent information as scientific unless it is derived from peer-reviewed public research. And I will also just say editorially that some journals these days, all you have to do is essentially pay a fee and you can get your article in the journal. So it does require a little bit of knowledge these days to make sure that the article you're reading is actually peer-reviewed and has gone through all of the appropriate little steps to ensure that it is published and adequately designed, adequately performed research. Now, administration in terms of administrative practices is something else that's covered in the standards of practice and code of ethics. So the reason I'm going into all this is to show you how many things you have to think about to ensure that someone is actually performing their job as a dog trainer competently and well. So one thing is we don't offer guarantees. Our certificates are not allowed to offer guarantees. Dogs are living creatures. You cannot guarantee the behavior of a living animal. You need to be upfront about fees and services. You can't change things halfway through. You need to get a signed waiver or contract. There needs to be a business relationship between you and that client that is documented with a contract. You have to have insurance, which is a really important piece of what if something goes wrong. So here in the United States, we're fortunate enough to have dog trainer professional insurance. That might not be true in every country. If it isn't true in yours, perhaps you could talk to an insurance company and see if they'd create something. We are required to keep accurate records. Who did we see? When did we see them? What did we discuss? What's going on with the animals in their home? And like doctors, although there isn't a legal requirement like there is with medical professionals in the United States, we are expected to maintain client privacy. We have to disclose conflicts of interest if they exist, and we also keep veterinarians in the loop. So I let the client's veterinarian know that I'm working with the client and what's going on. That's going to ensure that the animal's whole health and well-being are being considered. Other things. Fairness is really important. We don't want to be discriminating against anyone. So I will take any client from anywhere with any physical issues, any color, any race, any religion, any gender. That's very important. I'm going to treat all those clients with respect and honesty. I'm going to respect the decisions they make. Sometimes they're going to make a decision about what to do with their dog that I don't think would be what I would do with my own dog in my home, but it is their home. And in the end, they are the ultimate decider, the ultimate arbiter for what happens with their dog. I get informed consent if I'm going to take video. In other words, I say to them, hey, I'm taking video. I might use this in a presentation. If they say, I don't want you to use it in a presentation, I say, great, I won't use it in a presentation, and so on. And I'm also going to make sure I ensure everyone's safety. Another thing to keep in mind is professional demeanor. And this is something that I think any professional in any profession should keep in mind, is presenting yourself in a professional manner. But that also means being respectful of colleagues and other professionals. And that includes online, in social media, in public presentations, anytime you're writing. It doesn't help our industry if we say negative things about each other. You should always treat your fellow professionals with respect, regardless of what you might personally think about them. That doesn't matter. You're a professional, and it is not your job to judge them. And it's certainly not your job to speak in public about it. And in fact, one of the things that Ashley mentioned is that we do have enforcement standards. We have had to remove certifications from people because of public statements they have made that were very inappropriate and very harmful to someone else's business. So we're all trying to work together, not tear each other down. And of course, you only use materials you have a right to. So for instance, in this presentation, everything is a clip art or an image that I have the right to use, for example. And then finally, we are going to, wait a minute, where did it go? Just one second, I apologize. I had a mild issue. You are obviously going to be honest about things. So if someone says to you, I have a dog who's bitten 5 people, and I want that dog to start working in hospitals and meeting, people who are bedridden and want attention and time, let's make sure that we don't say to them, oh, your dog is the perfect candidate for that task. Now, I'd like to move on, if I can get the slides to work properly, to LIMA, which is the most important piece of the Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice. LIMA stands for least intrusive, minimally effective. The goal is for us to get effective behavior modification, but to do it in an ethical way. So we're looking to create minimally aversive methods, to use minimally aversive methods with minimal fallout. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that in just a moment, so don't worry if you don't have a picture in your head. The things to bear in mind about LIMA is that it is competent-based. It requires systematic problem solving. It helps to prevent abuse. It's designed to maximize choice and control for the learner. And the learner in this case means the dog, although I also use LIMA with my human clients. It focuses on what to do, not what not to do, but what to do. And there's a hierarchy of behavior change procedures. So you can see this hierarchy. We used to call it the humane hierarchy, and these days it's called the hierarchy of behavior change procedures, but it's all the same thing. We start down here where this yellow car is. And the first thing we do is we look at the learner and we say, is that animal well? Are they getting sufficient nutrition? Have they gotten their veterinary needs taken care of? Are they sleeping enough? Are they under threat by some other animal in the household? Let's make sure we take care of all of that first. Then we look at what are called antecedent arrangements, which you may know better under the term management. So for instance, if my dog jumps on people on the door and I don't want them to jump on people at the door, perhaps I put up some kind of barrier so that they can't run right up to the people at the door. Then after doing that management, maybe I want to teach them to do something else when someone comes to the door, like go grab a toy. I will teach that using positive reinforcement. We've all been talking about positive reinforcement a lot, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I'm just going to assure you as a professional with decades of experience training animals that positive reinforcement can be used in every situation. Now, if for whatever reason training let's say training go grab a toy with positive reinforcement isn't working quite as well as I want, what I might do is I might start rewarding that more rather than rewarding the jumping. So I would say, okay, when the dog jumps on you, can you please walk back out the door to the person who's coming in? And I'm going to focus on rewarding the dog when they grab the toy or when they have 4 paws on the ground. Only after that, and I want you to notice that we've got a little caution sign. I don't know if that's what's used in all of your countries, but for us, this is sort of a little caution sign. Only then am I going to go to things like extinction, which is trying to get rid of a behavior by removing all of the reinforcement for it, or negative reinforcement or negative punishment. Not going to get into what all of those mean. Feel free to reach out to me and let me know if you'd like more information. And positive punishment, do you notice there's this huge barrier here? We don't want to go there at all. So the goal of Lima is to get people saying there's an issue with this dog's behavior, and I'm going to start at exit 1, 2, and 3 instead of jumping straight to these later things. And I'm going to tell you the vast majority of the time, I'm stopping at positive reinforcement or at most at differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. So it's a really nice framework that helps guide us as professionals. Let me move us forward here. Ashley, do you want to jump in or shall I continue?
You can go ahead and continue.
Okay, so benefits of CCPDT certification. As a professional, what I know as a CCPDT certified professional, I have all of our certifications. I know that the work I am doing is helping to improve public safety, as discussed earlier. I am strengthening the bonds between people and their companion animals. And that's what we're all about here, right? This is a conference thinking about the bonds between us. I'm going to improve the quality of life of the dogs and the people. And again, as a certificate, I get to be part of a professional community. So anytime that I am having an issue, one of the things that I might want to do is reach out to a fellow professional. That's also in the code of ethics. I'm sorry, I skipped over that somehow. But if I have a case where I don't feel that I am qualified, that I have the experience or the knowledge to handle it, I reach out to a fellow professional and say to them, hey, can you please help me with this case? And maybe I observe them, maybe they take over the case, but I don't just jump in. I take advantage of that professional community to make sure that the client and their companion animal are getting the best advice possible. And then, of course, I am required to do continuing education, which helps me ensure that I'm always maximally competent as I can be. And let me tell you, the field changes and things happen. So it is good to keep up on that continuing education. That is best practices for almost all professions. If you're an attorney, if you're a doctor, if you're a veterinarian, you are required to do continuing education. We believe that dog trainers should be required to do that too. So with that, I will say thank you. And I can see Ashley is there also. I don't know if you want to hop in and say anything. And there is our website, which I know Ashley also popped into the chat so helpfully. Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate it. We would love to take questions. And I don't know if I saw anything pop up in the chat that was a question. But we would also take general behavior questions. Ashley and I, between us, have like 50 years of experience with just about every behavior you can imagine.
So there's no question in the chat, but I'll probably just quickly run through 1 or 2 questions from the pre-conference questionnaire that people did send in earlier, very briefly. So one of them, someone was asking, how would you respond to people who say that purely positive reinforcement dog training is not possible with some breeds, such as power breeds and working breeds like Malinois? let me probably just lump this up with another question as well, because of time, to see how best we can this thing. So then another question was on juvenile dog training. The person was asking, what will be the recommended basic manner training for juveniles if they did not have any foundational puppy training?
Ashley, do you want to jump in on the positive reinforcement with breeds question? And then maybe I could take the next one about juvenile training.
Yes, absolutely. So I will say first and foremost from a just professional experience, I've been training for 30 years. I'm considered what would be a crossover trainer. So 30 years ago when I started, my breed was Doberman Pinschers. My mentors all were within that model that you have to have 1 degree or use some degree of punishment in order to have a well-behaved Doberman Pinscher or insert any other kind of working breed. I have found since that time, the more that I educated myself as a professional and learned more about the science of learning, regardless of breed, that the learning is learning, right? All of these learning principles apply regardless of breed. I would say one of the biggest factors to consider is that you have to, rather than look at if a dog can or can't learn through positive reinforcement, oftentimes it requires a degree of the trainer learning more about how to actually motivate the learner, because what might be motivating for one dog may not be as motivating for another. So my belief on that, and I would think in general, I believe that Arit would agree with me, that you can train any breed of dog with positive reinforcement, and sometimes you may have to be more creative with your motivators. I know Linda had mentioned even in one of her comments that they use labs and golden retrievers because they're people friendly and food motivated, i.e. easy to teach. But you really can, from personal experience, work with any breed of dog with positive reinforcement. Some of those more protective breeds too, there may be a higher degree of management that's required based on their genetic probability to be protective in that aspect.
All right, I think, is it okay if I jump in? I'll come back to the juvenile
Absolutely.
question. I did see a question in the chat, which was on the negative versus positive. So I just want to really, really quickly answer that because it's a really fairly quick answer. Back when B.F. Skinner was codifying the way we speak about reinforcement and punishment in behavior, in his head, he looked at positive and negative as mathematical things. So positive means you add something, negative means you take away something. So if I'm doing positive reinforcement, that means I'm adding something that the animal likes. If I'm doing negative reinforcement, this is where it gets complicated. It means I'm taking away something. Oh, sorry. Let me back up 1 second. And reinforcement and punishment are the result. So reinforcement means the animal, to use the Thorndike term, likes the result. It's not exactly what Thorndike said, but close enough. And punishment means the animal doesn't like the result. So I'm either adding something or removing something, and the animal either likes the result or doesn't like the result. So when the word reinforcement is in there, it means the animal is going to like it. So positive reinforcement, I add something the animal likes. Negative reinforcement means I took away something the animal didn't like, so now the animal is happier. I took away the bad thing. That's negative reinforcement. Oh, thank goodness. Now I don't have to deal with the bad thing. Positive punishment is I'm adding something bad. I'm yelling at the dog. I'm using that shock, whatever it might be. And negative punishment means I have something the animal wants, but I take it away. So it does get a little bit confusing in that sense. But if you think of negative reinforcement is relief, is, oh, thank heavens that bad thing is over. Positive reinforcement is, yay, something really good is happening. So I always want to stay in positive what did I just say? Reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is, yay, something good is happening. So I always want to stay in positive reinforcement if I can. I also want to address a question that came in actually privately to me in the chat, which is There are some dog institutes that say you can train for just 3 weeks and become a professional. Is it possible to be a professional within that short period of time? The short answer is no, that is not adequate time to cover all of the knowledge that you need in order to be a competent professional. And we also actually have, I didn't mention this during the presentation, but a certain amount of experience you must have before you can be certified. That experience is best done under the guidance of another certified trainer. So those are all important pieces. So I'm gonna, if I can, I'm going to drop a link in the chat to something that'll show that positive and negative reinforcement. Any other questions that we want to address, or shall we move on? Because I know we're a little behind time.
I think we'll move on because of time, but then please feel free to also just chime in on any question that you still see in the chat and everything.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you again so much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for imparting knowledge and everything that you've taught us as well. And I especially would have really loved for you to answer that question on positive and negative. So yes, thank you for that. So that people get a perspective of what the difference is. So, and thank you, I can't remember who asked the question. Thank you. That was a really good question, really great question to ask, so that people get a better understanding of what the difference is. And just to mention that when I started off learning dog training way back in 2013, one of the things that was in my head at the time was hoping that one day, someday, then that I become CCPDTKA or CCPDTKSA at the time at all. And well, a lot has changed between that time and now. It's still a really great opportunity. I'd really love to see many more people who, even from this part of the world, who are able to learn, get certified, and come back, or to see how people from these parts of the world, I don't know of any certification across Africa. So I'm hoping that somehow, someday, we also are able to have certifying bodies in Africa, either that were developed here or probably even having organizations like CCPDT who can have their reach across Africa as well, that people can get certified. Anyways, that's just this thing, but because we also do need to have people who are certified and all. There are people going around everywhere saying that they're trainers, and people who sometimes are even not professional enough in their conduct. Some are people who don't even know how to train, and like it's an entire thing by itself. Anyway, so we'll jump straight quickly to the next and final presentation for today. So our next presenter is someone who's presenting on behalf of a team. So she's presenting on behalf of herself and Libnes, who put the content together, and they're happy to present. They're presenting on the topic "To Hug or Not to Hug: A Perspective on Human-Dog Miss or Communication," on behalf of their other colleagues, Vicky Stevens, Dorian Bonin, Charlotte Christens, and a lot of others. So all the names are in the listing as well in the brochure. So please feel free to go through. So the presentation basically goes through the fact that during the past 10 years, their multidisciplinary group, has collaborated in research and studies into human-animal behavior from an interdisciplinary point of view. That is checking through learning theory, ethology, veterinary and human physiology, and psychology, law and legislation, as well as agricultural engineering. Those are the makeup of all the professionals they have in the group that work together on this project. So they work with evidence-based analysis techniques to study behavior from a one welfare, one health perspectives. And areas which they've researched and published on include animal behavior and welfare, the similarities or dissimilarities of human and animal ethogram, inter and intra-species communication, that's either between animals or human and animals, and environmental enrichment for animals in captive environments, and a host of others. So to present on the topic, affective meaning of touch a perspective on human-dog communication or miscommunication, please make welcome Elizabeth Walsh. You're muted.
I have a small issue because my notes are coming up on the slides and I don't know how to stop this. Can you give me a moment till I try and figure it out?
Okay.
Sorry about this. Yeah, I think I have it now.
Okay.
One moment. Okay, okay, I'll try again. Okay, now you have the slide, yes?
Yes, we can see the slide.
Okay. All right, sorry for that hiccup. Okay, many thanks to the Dogalog team and to Dr. Sunday I'm sorry, I'm making a mess of this to start off with, and for Dr. Sunday Agbonika for the opportunity to speak. Many thanks to the other speakers for their very good presentations. And on behalf of my colleagues, I'm going to present human-dog communication and how body language and nonverbal cues are key to clarity in dog-directed play, petting and hugging behavior by humans. And we're focusing on the behaviors which we identified. I'm Elizabeth Walsh. Okay. It's recognized worldwide that dogs are very popular pets who live in close relationships with humans. And it's estimated that 21% of families in Europe, 65 million families in the US, and 78 million families in Africa have a pet dog. Dogs inherited their communication system from wolves, but at the point of divergence and have a large repertoire of behavior. This includes the use of all of their body, odors and vocalizations. However, dogs have diverged in appearance from wolves, and many breeds are restricted by their morphology from exhibiting the full repertoire of signals. This can cause miscommunication between puppies and dogs, with brachycephalic breeds being very limited. Canine communication has a role in nurturing bonds and is key in avoiding overt aggression. Living with pet dogs, interacting with them, showing affection for them, particularly through touch, has been shown to evoke positive physiological responses in humans, such as the release of endorphins, oxytocin, and phenylethylamine, which enhance our feelings of well-being, both physically and mentally. When levels of these hormones are balanced, we feel relaxed, and with increased concentration, they play a positive role in the alleviation of pain. Interaction with dogs may decrease our cortisol levels, which are recognized to regulate the stress hormone or the stress response. Sorry. The objective of our studies is to investigate, compare, and consider the behaviors and communication which humans exhibit towards dogs and those exhibited by dogs towards humans during play, petting, and hugging behaviors shown during spontaneous interactions and videos. We also investigate the behaviors shown by dogs and humans in training sessions for dogs that are involved in canine-assisted interventions, such as canine-assisted therapy, canine-assisted activities, and canine-assisted learning or coaching. Our first study is on human behavior during hugging, petting, and playing with dogs, and dogs' responses to these as seen on popular video sharing platforms. Humans tend to make videos, photos and selfies of family, friends and pets, often uploading these to social media platforms to share. To understand the behaviours seen during dog-human interactions, we conducted a systematic search on Google for video fragments using 9 different strings: woman, man, child hugging dog video, woman, man, child petting dog video, and woman, man, child playing dog video. We reviewed a total of 190 popular videos, the 30 most popular videos showing play behaviour between humans and dogs, the 80 most popular videos of hugging behaviour between human and dogs, and the 80 most popular videos of petting behaviours of humans towards dogs. During this study, different types of human behaviour were observed. For each behaviour, it was noted whether it occurred in the video and which dog behaviour was shown in response. Our results showed that many human behaviours may be concerning, as humans tend not to understand body language or vocalization shown by dogs when interacting with them. A high number of stress behaviours were observed in the dogs involved, which may have occurred due to misunderstandings of the information a dog may communicate during human-dog play, petting and hugging behaviour. This can cause feelings of discomfort, anxiety, fear, distress and confusion in a dog, which may result in a fractured human-dog bond, welfare issues for the dog, and a possible escalation to exhibit defensive or agonistic behaviour when humans misunderstand or fail to respond. The expression of a specific behaviour may sometimes depend on the kind of interaction and other characteristic of the dyad engaging with it. The data we found on the video sharing platforms inspired us to further research into human-dog communication. At the Beat Foundation, students learn to train their dogs for canine-assisted interventions. In these projects, which involve canine-assisted therapy, activities and learning, dogs are often required to respond to humans wanting or trying to hug, pet or play with them or be in close proximity to them. Dogs involved in canine-assisted interventions often work with clients who are highly emotional due to physical or psychological challenges. As students who train at the Beat Foundation often film their dogs during training, selection and sessions, we ask them to search their video archive for the behaviours and ethograms we describe in the JABS article. I would like now to discuss these videos and photos selected of human-dog interactions and to compare these with the definitions and behaviours which we found in literature. So, humans who like each other tend to seek each other's company and try to be close to each other. They show their interest and feeling by leaning into each other, by sitting side by side with or without body contact, which is the most primitive form of communication ontogenetically and phylogenetically. There are many varieties of intentional physical contact. As depicted in the photos, potentially any part of the body may be in contact with that of another's body. Touching cheeks, shoulders, body. However, touch is often used to refer to actions of the hand or fingers. The meaning of contact varies along several dimensions, such as duration, pressure, movement, and contact surface. Not all bodily contact is intentional or wanted. Humans may accidentally bump into another, and non-consensual touch is recognised. To understand behaviour involving touch or contact, all behaviours within the sequence they've occurred in need to be considered. Proximity and leaning in might be in combination with other behaviours, such as lifting the human, carrying, gazing into each other's eyes, each one holding the other's attention. Other displays of affectionate behaviour by humans include hugging and kissing. Hugging is described as a human greeting behaviour indicating friendliness. Close or intimate relationships may be indicated by the level or strength of the hugging, including embracing, body pressing and kissing. Hugging may include intense eye contact and caressing. This kind of communication comprises various sequences of body movements, which in addition to verbal communication, express intentions and convey often subtle information. A more perfunctory hug might be exchanged, for example, between politicians as a symbolic gesture. Before discussing the dog ethogram, attention is drawn to the ladder of aggression by Kendall Shepard, 2002. This model describes from least overt, calming or appeasement signals to overt aggression, signals which may escalate in intensity and threat if initial or incremental signals are ignored. Previous experience influences the dog's choice of level. If appeasing signals have been consistently ignored, increased aggression might be resorted to as a starting point in repeated situations. The tolerance level and reactivity of each dog will differ, dependent on the circumstances, including time, target, interactions, previous experience, and the status of any underlying physical disease causing pain or vulnerability. Original observations of dog behavior used the terms dominance and submission in describing observation and interpreting function. Over many years of investigation, observation and study, it has been established that these terms are no longer appropriate to use. It is adaptive for dogs to avoid aggression and to employ appeasement behaviors, to maintain health, social bonds and structures. Behavior, sorry, just one moment. Behavior involving lying down has been described as a posture in which the body of the dog is in contact with the ground due to flexion of both fore and hind limbs, with forelimbs either tucked or placed in front of the body. Dogs lie down for many reasons, including rest. In the first photo, the dog is waiting with his ears alert, upright, with the head focused towards a human. In the second, the dog is resting. However, lying with a raised leg, one raised leg, can also occur as an appeasement behavior in certain contexts, which can escalate towards agonistic behavior. Barking is described by Simon et al. As a loud and/or repetitive vocalization directed toward a human or other environmental stimuli. A bark is defined as a vocalization that is always abrupt in onset and short in duration. It may exhibit tonality and noise, in some degree is relatively high-pitched, subject to frequency modulation, relatively loud, and subject to rapid repetition. According to Abrantes, dogs bark for several reasons: to warn other dogs or people of intruders, to attract people attention, and it can be an invitation to play. Sonograms of barking show significant differences across different emotions and functions. Varying interpretations highlight the importance of context and the behavioral sequence to enable correct interpretation. Rumbling is described by Simon et al. As a low-pitched rumbling, fairly monosyllabic vocalization from the dog's throat. Growling with appropriate body postures may also be observed in play. There's a difference. This photo shows a dog growling at another that approaches. Shepard has suggested that growling is a clear signal to another dog to stay away or maintain distant, and occurs prior to the highest level of agonistic behavior, such as snapping or biting. This dog is staring at the other dog, exhibiting stiff body posture, with ears pointed toward the other dog with an immobile tail. Staring has been defined as an intense, fixating look towards human, with tensed body for a minimum duration of 2 seconds. In this photo, we see a dog stare at a human, and in the second photo, we see what preceded this behavior. The human is holding the dog's neck with her face close to his while he's restrained. Eye contact in humans can be a sign of intimacy and affection, but in dogs has been described as a demand for distance by Krauss and Mao. The human is smiling at the dog, which signifies friendliness for humans. However, showing teeth can be a sign of aggression as defined by Abrantes, and the human's face is in close proximity to the dog as she leans towards him. The dog reacts by flattening his ears, defined by Rugas as a calming signal, requesting the human to maintain distance. If the human responds appropriately, the dog may return to homeostasis and his ears will return to a natural position. However, failure to recognize signals may lead to an escalation of agonistic signals from the dog to facilitate achieving homeostasis. Staring precedes growling on the ladder of aggression. The behaviors in these photos are described as ears back or flattened and defined by Protopopovo as ears folded down against the sides and or back of the head and having a flattened appearance. In the first and second photo, the dog is standing with the attention focused forward. In the third photo, the behavior occurs when being lifted. And in the fourth photo, when being restrained on a human lap. The last photo shows a dog with flattened ears, nose raised on the lap of a human. The human is patting the dog's torso with the palms of his hands. This may be confusing for the dog, as dogs paw at each other as a calming or appeasement behavior. Shepherd's ladder of aggression describes this as a behavior which may be exhibited when the dog cannot maintain distance. The dog may interpret this as the human experience stress, while the human tends to display affection through physical contact. Okay, blink. Blinking is described by Pedrati et al. As eyelids opening and closing, and this behavior might be slow, moderate, or rapid. Sometimes this behavior is seen in combination with other behaviors, such as licking nose. Blinking is also mentioned in Shepherd's ladder of aggression as the first level of appeasement behavior. She describes it as a signal that the dog is feeling stressed. The photo at the right is taken on a boat trip, a new environment for the dog, who perhaps experiences it as unpleasant. The speed and frequency of blinking may be influenced by external factors such as light intensity, humidity, and dust. Behavior turning head or looking away is described by Zimmern et al. As turning only the head away from the human or other being while remaining without moving. This behavior is mentioned in Shepherd's ladder of aggression as a second level of appeasement behavior. Rugas also mentions it as a calming signal indicating stress. Krauss and Mao suggest it indicates neutrality, a lack of interest, or a request for distance. Licking the nose and lip is described by Simon et al. As licking directed to their own nose or lip. In licking, the distal upper part of tongue is put in contact and passed repeatedly over something. This behavior is mentioned in the ladder of aggression in the first level of appeasement behaviors, indicating that the dog is feeling uncomfortable but does not need to feel a need to escalate to aggressive behavior. Lip and nose licking has been termed a calming signal by Rugas and a way to relieve tension. Licking humans is described as a behavior directed to the recipient's face or mouth corners or other human body parts. In licking, again, the distal upper part of tongue is put in contact and passed often repeatedly over something. Krauss and Mao suggest this behavior can be self-calming, a calming gesture to another, a request for a pause in interaction, or a polite gesture when the dog is approached at speed. It is possible that licking humans is a form of conflict avoidance or appeasement behavior, a request for a pause also. Rugas describes this behavior as a calming signal. According to Shepherd, human licking is originally a behavior which puppies perform to obtain food through their parents' regurgitation. In the second and third photo, the dog's ears are turned back, which has been described as a possible calming behavior. Okay, panting. Panting is described by Kuhn as a dog breathing with increased rapidity with open mouth. Scompi et al. Have suggested that panting is a sign of stress. However, it can also be a sign of thermal regulation and of excitement. In their article, the authors describe, for instance, when a dog reunited with its owner after a divorce, who was excited to see his owner. I'm sorry about the slides skipping on, but I've realized that there's some kind of a timer having fun there. Paw lift. The behavior paw lift has been described by Kuhn as a dog that lifts the right, left, or both forepaws in the air or touches a hand with a forepaw. Rugas terms this a calming signal. However, it might also be an invitation to play or an intentional movement or expression of stress. Krauss and Mao suggest that paw lifting may have many meanings dependent on other signals, including being used on approach, as a request for a break from play, and to calm. The behavior paw lift is described by Kuhn as a dog that lifts the right, left, or both forepaws in the air or touches a hand with a forepaw. Rugas terms this a calming signal. However, it might also be an invitation to play or an intention. Sorry, there's something gone wrong there. This is repeating itself. Just go on. On this photo, we see a dog freeze in combination with a lip lick. The behavior is described by Simon et al. As a general rigidity of the body, with the exception of the tail without staring toward the recipient. Krauss and Mao describe freezing as a response to a situation which is perceived as extremely threatening. It is one of 4 options of response which a dog may offer when perceiving threat: fight, flight, freeze, or faff about. Faff about describes a behavior which may be misinterpreted as the dog being excited. Okay, fleeing or moving rapidly is described as a fast gait away from a human to a distance of 3 meters or more, with head oriented in opposite direction to the human. Dogs may run from a human for many reasons, such as distractions and play and fear. It is context specific. The opposite of running away is running towards the human, in which a dog with either an accelerated rapid gait or a moderate paced gait runs towards a human to within a distance of 1 meter or less. Bite can be described as taking any part of a human's body between the jaws and teeth with pressure. Biting is overt aggression, and on the top level of the ladder of aggression, when a bite occurs, it is clear that previous appeasement behaviours and less overt aggression have not been successful in achieving an appropriate response from the human or dog involved. The next video shows a case of nibble bites. This is a play bite, the pressure is low, and the dog interrupts behaviour after every nibble. The second video shows the son of a co-author interacting with their dog. The video was not staged, and the child was not hurt, but was scared. He learned that night that his dog does not like to be embraced. This video illustrates that it is vital that an adult be present when children interact with dogs. However, that in itself does not guarantee safety. Now you can see that the dog is playing, but he's also tending to nibble. Now, this was just a family video which demonstrated a different behavior. It was not staged or expected. So another behavior that might occur initiated by humans interacting with dogs is that their dogs eat treats that are given to them. Dogs take objects as being defined as taking an object such as a shoe or a bone that is the possession of the human. Sitting, described as a dog's hind is in contact with the ground, with forelegs that are extended vertically beneath. In this photo, the dog sits on the human. Krause and Mao suggest that sitting serves many functions. Some breeds use this more than others, and some breeds, such as the dachshund, are limited physiologically in ability to sit, their legs being very short and their body being long. Importantly, this may be employed in distressing situations, threatening situations, and when asked to maintain space. When training dogs, a sit is invaluable, as a sitting dog is not jumping or doing a range of other less preferred behaviours when around humans. Dogs can jump towards their humans, try to push or tackle them. These behaviours are seen as a dog that propels its body upwards rapidly, causing it to stand on its hind limb and place one or more front paws on the recipient with forceful contact. Forelimbs may or may not be wrapped around the other's body in a tackle grasp. This tends to be a behaviour reinforced by humans in many instances, yet a risky one. It is one that can be avoided by having taught a sit. A play bow is described as a dog crouches down, touching or almost touching forelimbs to the ground, with rear end high in the air, orientations directed toward the play partner. A play bow might be an invitation to play, and it is also considered a calming signal by Rugas. Krause and Mao consider a play bow to be a positive behaviour, inviting play and to indicate that the intention of play is positive. Dog rubbing or grooming is described by Wren and Keeling as a dog cleaning its body surface by licking, nibbling, rubbing, scratching, etc. Rubbing is the dog's behaviour when it rubs its body against the ground or, as we see, against the seat. It can occur in different situations. Horowitz suggests that there are different interpretations of this behaviour, such as camouflage by making their body smell like the environment by rubbing against items, and possibly the dogs may show role to gain popularity among peers when they smell like something desirable. Shaking involves a dog shaking any part of or the whole of its body from side to side rapidly. Shaking involves rotation along the longitudinal axis of the dog's body. A dog shaking its body may indicate stress, but occurs after the stressful situation. The dog is considered to shake the stress off. However, shaking is also a functional behaviour occurring naturally in dogs after being washed or swimming. Tail movements are described by Simon et al. As non-accelerated, regular sideward movements of the tail at a height natural to the dog's body. Humans tend to regard dogs wagging their tails to be happy and friendly. However, this is not always true. It can indicate, among other things, that the dog would like to interact, and this can be in a positive or negative way. Some context assists in deciding the type of interaction indicated, such as the height of the tail. However, the position of the tail is species specific and may be individual. Wagging differs between wide and narrow movements, quick and slow movements, and moving it within a restricted width in contrast to a usual tail wag. Rain and Keeling have described right or left wagging, tail wagging as the dog wagging its tail within a restricted width. Right or left tail wags have recently been investigated. A right tail wag is hypothesized to express positive feelings. In the next video, Tess greets her rabbit friends who normally live outdoors in a big field, but come indoors when temperatures are low. In the video, you will see that she responds to the first rabbit with a slow left high tail wag. The rabbit isn't her favorite. The second rabbit makes nose-to-nose contact, and Tess responds with a high wide greeting. The third rabbit also makes nose-to-nose contact, and Tess' response is a right tail wag, which indicates that this is her favorite. Okay, there she is. This rabbit isn't her favorite. Now you see the change in the tail here? It's a wide, high greeting. Now there's nose-to-nose contact. And it's a right tail wag. That's her friend. Okay, yawning. Yawning is described by Protopopovo as voluntarily opening mouth wide while inhaling and exhaling. The behavior is at the bottom of the ladder of aggression, indicating appeasement and stress. Krauss and Mao suggest that yawning, in addition to the dog sometimes being tired, can indicate feeling stressed or in pain. It may be used to relieve tension and to self-calm. It is a very, very important signal for us. In the following slides, human behaviors towards dogs and the dog's response will be discussed. In the first photo, we see the behavior turning head in a dog that is in close proximity with his human partner who is leaning and staring into the dog's eyes. He is uncomfortable. In the second photo, the human is in close contact and looking at a dog, but the focus point is the nose of the dog without teeth visible, and the dog responds to this contact with soft eyes and attentional gaze, which is not staring. The dog's ears are relaxed, and the dog is being gently stroked beneath its chin. This photo depicts a human leaning forward, looking and bending towards a dog, appearing to lure the dog with a treat in her hand. The dog is very uncomfortable, exhibiting low posture and a stiff tail. He may be in conflict, both wanting to have the treat, however fearful to approach. An alternative way for the human to offer this treat is to crouch down low, turning sideways, and look away from the dog, offering the treat on an open hand to enable the dog to easily take it. If the dog is still uncomfortable, gently throw the treat to him and gradually bring him closer in this way until he is confident to take the treat from a hand. This removes direct eye contact, the bending over, and leaves the decision to the dog to either maintain distance or approach and investigate. This is defined by Tammy and Gallagher as the tail of the dog is stiff and does not move in relation to the rest of the body. The first photo here shows stroking or petting behavior, where the human uses the palm of her hand to affectionately pet the dog. However, the dog has flattened ears in response, a sign of stress, and may indicate missed communication. Thus, the perception of the human and the dog differs. In the second photo, the human is affectionately touching the top of the dog's head. Again, the dog has flattened ears and closed eyes, signs of stress, and attempts to communicate to the human that this touch is not pleasant. In the third photo, the human has his hand on the dog's throat. The dog in this photo appears relaxed and shows no sign of stress. Touch can be soft or strong, brief or protracted. Dogs may be expected to accept touch from many humans, including those not familiar with them. It is vital to observe your dog and not to request something of him which is beyond his comfort level. Barra and Smuts define this, what you see in these photos, as human applying sufficient physical force to force a dog partially or completely to the ground. Force may be applied using a push, tackle, body slam, or some movement. In the first photo, a human is restraining a dog, focusing her gaze on him, wanting to kiss him. This is a human behavior which can frighten and distress a dog, a type of restraint. The dog may avoid or react to any attempt at this behavior in the future. Dogs can be physically manipulated into positions such as on the floor or carried as a baby. In the second photo, the human is holding the dog as a baby. However, the dog is not comfortable and his ears are flattened. Okay, we have embracing. The behavior of embracing or placing arms around a dog has many forms. In the first photo, the human bends over a dog on the ground, placing his face close to the dog's head and jaw. The dog appears to be flicking its tongue, a sign of stress. In the remaining photos, the dog is being lifted off the ground. In the second photo, the human embraces the dog, whose front paws rest on the human's arm. The dog does not appear relaxed and the eye is tense. In the third photo, the dog has flattened ears. In the fourth photo, the dog is staring at a point on the ground. And in the fifth photo, there appears to be a tongue flick. All of these humans intend to express affection. However, this is unclear to the dogs. These photos depict humans kissing their dogs on the side of the muzzle, with an arm placed around the dog's neck or chest, which may be restraining to the dog. Humans have been observed to kiss dogs' bodies in many places. In the first photo, the dog appears to be panting and blinking, which are signs of stress. Restraining a dog and forcing close contact can be threatening to it. Boundaries need to be respected. In conclusion, our study showed many causes for concern, as there appears to be misunderstanding of dog communication, causing dogs to exhibit calming and stress behaviours and agonistic behaviour, including growling and bite. It was also concerning that these videos of behaviour at a point in time appeared to be liked and admired by viewers who may not have understood the behaviour which they saw. Play is considered to form a part in behavioural ontogeny. Inappropriate play may damage the development of appropriate play behaviour. Kuhn et al. Found some forms of play, such as muzzle or paw holding, create a risk to the human-dog bond. In our results, it appeared that adults were least threatening to dogs, both adults and teenagers less threatening than babies and toddlers. This is a cause for concern, as children feature significantly in dog bite statistics, and as in our video, even supervised children can be at risk. Lack of human comprehension of dog communication causes stress, confusion, fear, and anxiety to a dog, the results of which may be a fractured human bond, an escalation in defensive or overt aggression, and welfare issues for both the human and dog, including a risk of rehoming or euthanasia. Popular online videos, when investigated, showed high incidence of stress and agonistic behaviour. Canine communication is complex and not easy to interpret appropriately. Behaviour must always be looked at in the entirety of the signals and must be in context. Both human and dog communication may lack clarity for each other. Canine ontogeny can be affected negatively by inappropriate hugging, petting, and playing behaviour. We strongly advocate for increased education for both adults and children, in canine communication context, and very importantly, in cooperative ways of respecting agency in human-dog interactions. When a dog indicates a reluctance to engage in a behaviour, this must be respected. This can improve both human and dog welfare, creating stable human-dog bonds. Thank you for your attention, and to Dr. Sunday Agbonika and the whole Dog Aloft team for inviting us to share our research on human-dog interaction and behaviour. Also, a thank you, Lisbeth and Robbie, for stimulating discussion, and everyone who shared their observations with us, and especially to our dogs, because without them, this study would not have been possible. If you want more information on our publications, please follow the Beat Foundation via LinkedIn or contact us via email at info@beat.be, simona.normando@unipd.it, or walshelizabeth05@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Oh, just to mention, we have references if anyone wants them sent on, or we can give them to Dr. Agbonika and he can distribute them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that presentation. And by this also, I'll equally be saying thank you to your partners as well, Liv Mears of Beat, Simona, sorry, I didn't get the surname. Anyways, to Simona as well. Thank you.
There's a lot of us.
Yes, and everyone else on the team. Thank you so much for this presentation, for the research and everything that went into this. So Morgan Sampson from South Africa, she made this comment. She says, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing so much valuable information. This should be shared widely to improve human-dog interactions. We can all benefit. Thank you. Yes. So maybe just because of time, just one quick question, and then before we wrap up. So I'll be taking a question from the pre-conference questions that people did ask earlier.
Yeah.
And so what someone did ask, and someone said, how do I get over my fear of dogs? And the person says, I'll only accept dogs if they have no teeth. I want to think that this still stems from much of the news, the things that we've seen out there, and all of that, and how all of that has probably inspired fear and all of that in this kind of person. So what would be your take?
Well, dogs come with teeth. So clearly that person won't be accepting dogs. I mean, the thing is that all dogs have teeth and all dogs can bite. It is the way that we breed them and nurture them and train them that is the difference between a dog which is aggressive and a dog which isn't aggressive. If someone has a deep fear of dogs, it's in their own interest to seek ways to overcome that fear, because people who are afraid of dogs are more likely to respond in an inappropriate manner if they encounter a dog that's aggressive. People, say things like, oh, dogs smell fear. No, they don't smell fear. But if you jump up and down and scream and wag your arms, well, you look like you might attack the dog, So it's really, there's lots of ways to overcome fear of something. And I think it's the way forward for that person would be really to go to someone who has the qualification to work with them in overcoming their fear.
Okay, thank you for that answer to the question. And so before we wrap up, so first of all, thank you to everyone who's here and everyone who has stayed, especially to this point. Thank you so much. I am short of words. I just thank you. I'm so full of gratitude. I see that Dr. Elizabeth Umrod is on the call, and she's one of my mentors. I would say that the entire series of conferences. We now run 2 conferences a year, and it was all birthed because of a conversation I was having with Dr. Elizabeth Omrod in 2020 when we were talking, and then based on where I was coming from and everything that I'd gone through, everything that I was hoping to, the impact I was hoping to build in Nigeria, across Africa and everything, I was having a conversation with Dr. Elizabeth Omrod, who had already been in the field for years. And it seemed like, in a sense, where I was at the time was where she was over 40 years ago. And so I asked her, what would be her best advice? I was looking then at reaching out to different groups, go talk to this group, talk to this group, and all. But then she said, instead of that, and then she shared her own experience, and then I said, why not look for how to just bring everyone together in a conference? And that was how the idea of the conferences was born. And so please, I want to just give a quick minute to Dr. Elizabeth Omrod to just share her, to just say hello, and then if you have any words to share as well. So Liz, please feel free to.
Hello, Sunday, and everyone. It's just wonderful to see the progress that you've made in sharing information across the globe. You've done more than anybody in a short space of time in this field to raise awareness and spread the message, particularly to countries where this information isn't actually in the curricula yet. With people like you, the future of the field is in very safe hands. And we need the scientists to work together with the practitioners, and this is what you're doing. You're bringing the science to those of us in practice so that we can enhance our work and make it safer, but also the practitioners are able to feed back to the scientists about what we are doing and what needs to be done. So I commend you so highly. You need to be awarded for your work. It's outstanding. Very proud of what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you so much. And please, any final words from the speakers? So Larry, Ashley, Irith, Elizabeth, any final words before we wrap up? If you have any final words, please feel free to.
Can I just say, I absolutely think that what Elizabeth said is so true. It's an enormous amount of work that you have managed to achieve in a very, very, very short time. And it's really for the team of people, the collaboration that I work with, we were really so excited to present here. And I'm fortunate to be part of such a collaboration. But we really were very, very excited to present at this conference because we feel it's presenting to many countries who are like in infancy when it comes to behavior and training, and it's such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll jump in and give thanks as well to you, Dr. Sunday, to all the speakers, to everybody who asked such great questions and all the chat that is going on here. You've even tired out Spider. He is in his kennel. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I also want to jump in and say thank you. And I also want to say, if anyone is interested in learning more about certification or getting more involved, we always have room on the board for excited people who want to make the world a better place and make the dog profession more professional. We also, although right now this space is occupied, but one of the members of our board is someone who is not a dog professional. So you do not have to be a dog professional in order to be part of the board. ccpdt.org. Please feel free to reach out. And Sunday, this has been amazing. Thank you so, so much for this opportunity to speak with this amazing audience.
Thank you so much.
And listen to all the other incredible speakers too.
Thank you so much as well for being here, for accepting to share your knowledge and experience.
I just also wanted to jump in and say thank you to everyone who attended, and Dr. Sunday and your team, and the other speakers. It's really been just a joy to be here today.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I will actually, do you want to say something? It seems like you, so please.
Yeah,
please go
I was
ahead.
just gonna really quick, same thing, just thank everyone for their participation and being here, especially to the participants. It's people that have interests in advancing their understanding that start to make the big change. So thank you for everyone for being here, and for Sunday Forward and your team for making this happen.
Thank you so much. So at this point, we have come to the end of the meeting officially. I would be shutting down the recording. Where is that? So anyway, so looking forward to the next edition and to having everyone who's here join us.